Test, test. Let me know if you can hear that. Got to go to plan B microphone today because the other one headphone wasn't working. Let me know if you can hear that. Okay, thank you. It is Tuesday night, East Lansing, Michigan. Come on in, gather around, gather around, gather around. We're going to talk some Michigan State football and have a wonderful time doing it. Michigan State football, Michigan State recruiting. Tomorrow is signing day. It is signing day eve right now. Let me get this out of the way. So, got a little problem going on over here. We'll be all right now. Let's go. Let's roll. Had to go to a different headphone today. Hope to have Big Movie here tonight. We're not going to have him because of this, because we can't get call-ins under this setup. We appreciate everybody checking in with us to talk Michigan State football. It's been an interesting week, a difficult week for Michigan State football in a lot of ways. Year number one of a new program, some of that shouldn't be a huge surprise, but when you actually see how the sausage is made, people freak out a little bit. Michigan State goes 5-7, disappointing ending to a season. Had a chance to beat Rutgers and get to 6 wins and get to a bowl game and those type of things. Fell short. And the manner in which Michigan State fell short is part of the disconcerting thing for Michigan State fans, as we can see over at the SpartanMag.com underground bunker and the reaction from Michigan State fans. Because Michigan State had trouble in terms of physicality against Rutgers. Had a chance to win, get to the postseason, didn't happen. 5-7 record, as I wrote after the game on Sunday. Not a big surprise. If you'd have told us in July that'd be the case, no one would have been surprised. But when you see the 7 losses happen, it doesn't make the medicine go down any easier. Strange, difficult season for Michigan State. Missed opportunities. The memorable things was the victory over Iowa. Not only the win that day, but it ushered in a lot of hope and expectation that this team could get on a roll and do some things above and beyond the expectation. Pushed Iowa up and down the field, and 1 week later at Michigan, dominated the first quarter. You could say dominated the first quarter and a half, and all things seemed possible at that point. Then that missed opportunities in the red zone in that game. Some coaching situations that they would like to have back, I'm sure. That game got away, turned ugly in a lot of ways at the end of that game. Don't need to go into that anymore. You guys know what happened there. From that point on, Michigan State really had trouble getting untracked again. Beat Purdue 24-3 at halftime, looked good at times, barely was able to hang on. That was disconcerting. And then a chance to get something done at Illinois and the Rutgers game. Not good enough to get that done. So not good enough to get into the top half of the Big Ten, get into the postseason. 5-7. Not going to shock anybody, but the way it all came about has led to some hand-wringing and so forth. And we will get into that tonight as Michigan State heads into signing day. Michigan State looking to sign a class that's, as you all know, not ranked very high. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along as well. Bryson Williams, some of the news tonight. Bryson Williams, athlete out of Orchard Lake St. Mary's, maybe one of the better players in this class, doesn't plan to sign tomorrow. Still committed to Michigan State, not planning to sign. Now you got to remember the things that they're signing on Wednesday they're not letters of intent. They are no longer signing letters of intent. They're signing a binding agreement of some sort, but not really binding from the player's point of view. I think it's a grant in aid. Universities are pledging to them that they will give them a scholarship if they come to their school whenever they enroll. But basically, letters of intent don't exist anymore. Theoretically, anyone that signs anywhere tomorrow could decommit a week later. So I don't think you have a player. It was explained to me last week. You really don't have a player until they enroll next fall. We saw some players enroll early last year. I don't even know. The rules change all the time. I think there's still a spring transfer portal window. They just shortened it. For instance, last year, A.J. Dennis signed with Illinois, enrolled early, went through spring practice, transferred to Michigan State after spring practice, enrolled at Michigan State in the fall as a true freshman. That can happen whether you enroll early or not. So these are promise rings they're signing tomorrow, basically. But Bryson Williams, a guy that an interesting prospect, a guy that played really well in the state title game, Division III state championship game for Orchard Lake St. Mary's last weekend. Over at SpartanMag.com, Jake Laskawa has a really good story about Bryson Williams, how he did last weekend in the state title game. They defeated Byron Center 35-19. Bryson Williams, 13 carries, 109 yards. Kind of a utility offensive player, utility skill guy with some physicality. Reminds me of Connor Hayward a little bit. Tight end, wide receiver, running back. Connor Hayward, NFL, what is he, an H-back? Michigan State, he was a tailback a little bit, then tight end. In high school, he was a wide receiver primarily. Reminds me of Bryson Williams a little bit. Bryson's maybe a little shorter, but a player that Michigan State, I think, wants in this class. They definitely want him in this class. Not sure which other schools are involved, what's in his ear right now. We've reached out to him, waiting to hear back. And go over to the Spartan Mag Underground Bunker message board throughout the night. Jason Killip's got his ear to the ground at that in terms of what's going to shake out there. Kenny Jordan also doing a really good job helping cover recruiting for us. Jake Laskawa, great intern extraordinaire for Michigan State. Paul Konendijk as always, doing a great job at SpartanMag.com. Kenny Jordan with a good point. I think he saw Bryson Williams wearing Kansas gloves in the state semifinals, then took them off during the game. Kansas has been an aggressive recruiter in the state of Michigan in recent years. Are they in on this? Not sure, but we'll talk more about that as we go. So that's the news as we look into signing day tomorrow. And we will cover signing day at SpartanMag.com throughout the day. And I want to take another look. I've not looked at all the senior film of all those players. Wanted to get in some highlights here today, but I spent a lot of time today making a lot of phone calls about the NIL situation and was not able to put together some highlight stuff that we wanted to go over today. So I'm hoping later this week, and as we get into the weeks ahead, going those piece by piece with this recruiting class, not ranked real high, but the 15 that are committed, when I've looked at them in the past, look like solid additions. Some of them are underrated. I thought Aiden West was underrated. I said that when he committed. I think he was a 2-star at the time, corner from Maryland. And I said at the time, man, if you told me this was a 4-star committed to Penn State, I'd believe it. That's what I said last summer. Anybody remember that? Went out, had a really good senior year. Ohio State offered. Doesn't surprise me. Michigan State working to keep Aiden West. Talked to Jason Killip a little bit today about West, and his forecast was it still seemed kind of 50-50 at the time, so we'll see if that one comes through tomorrow. And again, it's just a promise ring. So anyway, SpartanMag.com. Go check it out. It is the church of what's happening now in Michigan State, sports talk, and we'd love to have you as a subscriber over there. $1, you can check it out for 7 days. We think that you'll like it and you'll become a subscriber. So long term, we'd love to have you over there as a subscriber. In the meantime, give us a like here. Subscribe to this channel. We'd love to have you check out our content even further. We've got a lot of questions today about name, image, and likeness and the portal situation. I wrote something in a .comp article on Sunday after the Michigan State-Rutgers game, talked about the support Michigan State is looking for in the football building. I've been asking around about that this week. Got some answers on some things. Some things are changing direction a little bit. We will get into that tonight. What we do over at SpartanMag.com Underground Bunker message board is we invite Michigan State fans, Michigan State SpartanMag.com subscribers to post questions, and we field those questions mailbag style right here. We're going to breeze through these 14 or 15 questions. Call tonight. I've got some film to watch. I want to check out the senior film for these commitments before we get into signing day coverage tomorrow. Michigan State going to Minnesota to play the Gophers Wednesday night. We'll have analysis of that over at SpartanMag.com as well. Over at the Underground Bunker message board, which is the church of what's happening now with Michigan State sports, we invited Spartan Mag subscribers to post questions to us here for Spartan Mag Live, and we answer those questions here mailbag style. Question number 1, Boomer31 from Grosse Pointe, Michigan says, posting from Grosse Pointe, he says, Jim, sounds like we have a number of disparate pieces within the athletic department football program with differences of opinion regarding NIL, legal stuff, etc. With Coach Smith now in the fold, do you see a likely chance for everybody to get rowing in the same direction before next year? I'm kind of surprised it didn't happen this year, but of course there was a lot of adjustment to be done after Tucker. Thanks and go green. That is from Boomer31 in Grosse Pointe. Yes, I do think they're going to get everything rowing in the same direction. A few weeks ago, I wasn't so sure. A few days ago, I wasn't so sure. But after now that the football season is over, I think communications are going to be solid, and I think that they are going to get things going in the right direction. Basically, I would say there were like 2 obstacles. I think one obstacle is dissipating, going to get on the boat, and the other one just going to jump over. And that's all I can say about it right now. But that's my read, and I think that conditions are positive for things to get all in the same direction. Everybody pulling in the same rope, pulling in the rope in the same direction. And I wasn't sure that was even a problem a few months ago, but things can get complicated and so forth, differences of opinion. But I think a lot of that's getting ironed out. Too late? No. Could have helped earlier, maybe with this recruiting class, if some things had been stronger in some ways. But I think the clouds are breaking. I think things are going to be all right. All right, I'm going to jump straight to question 15 because I wrote all these down during rehearsal, and by the 15th one I got to, I'm just going to move it up to the top. Question 15 from Dr. Fraser Crane in Atlanta, Georgia. He says, is there anything to be positive about moving forward with the football program? Anything to be positive about? Yeah, just here in the last few days, I've been detecting and hearing some good things in terms of portal interest. Players regionally around the country interested in Michigan State, reaching out to assistant coaches who have recruited them in the past. And, it's one thing for coaches to get into the portal and go after a player. They are being recruited by players. Michigan State is. Hearing that from some different directions. That's a good thing. The portal is such a vital part of putting a football program together these days. You guys know that. And for Michigan State and what they need right now, you see they've got deficiencies. The recruiting class is going to help a little bit, but that's down the road. Portal. Michigan State's got a chance to be really good in there this offseason. We'll see what happens there. I think Michigan State was pretty good with evaluation last year with the 23 players they added. A lot of them were good, solid, a lot of hit rate guys. I think probably, we saw that the Big Ten, all Big Ten coaches, the all Big Ten awards were announced today. Michigan State had a handful of guys that were honorable mention, kicker, punter, but also, Nick Marsh and Luke Newman at left guard, Jordan Turner at linebacker in terms of the coaches. I don't care about the media votes. A lot of times, I'm in the media. I know how stupid we are. A lot of the people in the media just vote on stats. Oh, you got 4 interceptions? You're first team all Big Ten. Might not be that good of a defensive back. So Luke Newman at left guard, Jordan Turner at linebacker. Michigan State's best defensive player was a good evaluation in the transfer portal. Luke Newman, probably Michigan State's second best offensive player next to Nick Marsh. Could make an argument for the running backs maybe. Luke Newman, I'm not saying he was great, but he was good. He's functional. Would not have wanted to see what the offensive line would have been without him. Holy Cross, Birmingham Brother Rice, comes back to the state of Michigan. Good evaluation. Good addition. And there were some other ones. Daquan Dowse had a really good year at defensive tackle. He might be Michigan State's second best defensive player. Well, I put Brantley in there as well. Brantley, those are the top 3. Brantley, Jordan Turner, Daquan Dowse. Turner and Dowse out of the portal. And it's not like they were 4-star guys, headline-grabbing guys coming in. They came in and played well. And I would say, they played their best season of their careers. Turner was okay at Wisconsin. He wasn't this good. Dowse was good at Georgia Tech. He wasn't this good. So they got to Michigan State. They developed. It's kind of positive. Evaluation of the portal, the interest from the portal, the evaluation of the portal, and the development in 1 year with some of those players from the portal was all good. So the good news, you're asking, Dr. Fraser Crane from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm listening, Dr. Crane. And my answer is, right now, positive is the potential of the portal, if I may use some alliteration. Potential of the portal. So that's positive. We'll see what comes of that. It's going to be interesting. Other things that were positive, the defense containing the run for the most part in a lot of games this year. Statistically, Michigan State improved total defense, rush defense, and those things. I think they were solid. The defensive side of the ball. I'll get into that a little bit later. I've got some other points about that. I'll jump to that right now. One of the things on defense we saw a little bit in the Rutgers game and some others. Michigan State did not have a pass rush. We saw that, right? Had it early in the year and then it just kind of vanished. Ken Talley entered the portal today. Maybe he thought he deserved more playing time. I know he was banged up through the course of the season. He looked real good early in the year and looked like that was a guy that had developed as a player and then just kind of flatlined and kind of disappeared. Not sure what went on there, but now he's in the portal. I kind of thought that he had potential to be a long-term gainer, but it's like Aiden Childs said after the game, who's with us? If you're with us, toe the line, let's go. If not, we don't need you. So Is he a guy that wants to be at Michigan State, but he wants to see what his market value is? There's some of that. Charles Brantley's done that. That could be part of it. Not sure. But pass rush, Michigan State didn't have a pass rush. You guys know that. So in order to manufacture a pass rush, Michigan State had to bring some pressures, some blitzes, some zone pressure, some man drops. Zone pressure meaning guys dropping into coverage and maybe only 4 guys still rushing. So it's a 4-man rush. So it's not a blitz. It's a pressure in current modern vernacular. Zone pressures, different movements, which means different moving traffic in the back. And the more of those that you have in and the more of those that you run, the better chance you have to screw yourself up. And I saw Michigan State having to bring a lot of pressures because they did not have the individual pass rush talent. They brought a lot of pressures, a lot of blitzes, which create the potential to screw yourself up, but I didn't see Michigan State screw themselves up a lot with those blitzes. Nick Saban and others used to say, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. If you live by the blitz, you die by the blitz. I saw Michigan State dying in a lot of ways with some of these games this year. I didn't see them dying by the blitz a lot. I didn't see them really getting undressed. And that's with playing 2 true freshmen in the back in the last third of the season. Sometimes 3 true freshmen, 2 of them rotating in. So for Michigan State to do as much as they did with the blitzes and pressures, didn't die by the sword a whole lot. And statistically on defense, remained pretty good. I think that's something positive. Now, there were some times when you saw players run into each other. There was a key play. It was the Illinois game on a blitz, and Darius Snow didn't get deep because he ran into Bogle, who was stunting as part of a pressure, and then he didn't get deep, and it ended up being a game-changing play to number 13, Bryant. And there was a 3rd down conversion in that, was it the Purdue game? No, the Illinois game, where you had traffic bumping into each other. So it's not like they were perfect, but I didn't see it happening a lot. Angelo Gross had his struggles. So positive, portal, keep an eye on it. No guarantees there, but you've seen a lot of teams build through the portal, and that's the way it is these days. It's not like the old days where you signed 25 to 27 guys this year, put them in the oven, wait a couple years, put some more in the oven, wait a couple years. Right now, it's the portal. Some teams are making some quick gains, and I think the staff knows that it's a changing landscape. Pressure never subsides. It just gets tighter and tighter. And when you see Indiana do what they've done, even Colorado, even though they're an outlier, it's hard to be what they are. There is a lot of pressure and expectation for others to do it, for your program to do it. And portal is one way to do it. Michigan State had, 61 new players this year. It's going to be a lot of new players this next year. It's not going to be 61. But the players that have been at Michigan State will have been through the process, and they know a little bit about how things are done in this program, and that should theoretically help gain a little more traction moving forward. Remains to be seen. Let me look over here in the comments section. All right, we've got a few posts. Not many. Got a lot of people watching right now, but not many posts. John Elke checking in from Clarkston. By the way, the kicker, Rusty, he's in the Rusnak. He's in the portal from Clarkston, Michigan. Where'd he go? Did he go to Notre Dame Prep? Something like that. Kicked at Michigan State, missed the one against Indiana, went in the portal. Michigan State got some other guys. He went to Charlotte, won the job, was 13 out of 13 this year? Hit a 54-yarder, left-footed kicker. He's in the portal, just got an offer from Pittsburgh. Is Michigan State going to be in on him? I don't know. Michigan State's in the market for a kicker. We'll see. I actually reached out to him. He responded back. I said, hey, man, congratulations. He said, thanks. I said, keep me posted. He said, okay. So we'll see what happens. John Elke from Clarkston checking in. Eric M. checking in from Roswell, Georgia. He's a regular. Clark Merrier from Sylvania, Ohio, right there on the border. I know my geography, some of it. Chris Leverett checking in from Norcross, Georgia, and Brad Fushenko from Austin, Texas. So that's your starting 5. I'm going to put Fushenko. He's at the point. He's my point guard. Clark Merrier's shooting from the wings. He's got that fancy name, and I think he's got a sweet stroke. I'm sure he does. Chris Leverett. Hope he's tougher than Jim Everett. Nothing against Jim Everett. I don't want to go there. I like Jim Everett, Purdue guy. That's going back to, who's the guy that made his career? Jim Rome. It's a Jim Rome thing. That was a cheap Cheap publicity stunt by Romy, but it worked out for him, didn't it? Leverett, putting him down low at the 4. He's tougher than Jim Everett. Eric M's at the 2. And John Elke, Clarkston, the 5. He's from Clarkston. He's from Clarkston. The Lawyers went to Clarkston. The Fifes went to Clarkston. Dane Fife, Dugan Fife. McCormick went to Clarkston. Who's the other one? I mean, there have been others, but I know that. Anyway, Clarkson's been a basketball school in the past, so I'll put Elke at the 5. Anyway, who was it? Let me see. Or maybe it'll come to me. Ed Whitaker. If you're from Clarkson, you might remember Ed Whitaker. It's back in my day. He was kind of a swing man, they used to call it back then. Kind of a wing forward scoring guy from Clarkston. He's a good one. So Elke's kind of our Ed Whitaker. Not a Fife. Not a Lawyer. Not a McCormick. He's an Ed Whitaker. So I'm going to put Elke at the 3 instead of the 5. And we're going to go positionless without a 5. So anyway, good to have those guys. Desert Sparty, how was your Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving was great. Thanks for asking. Chris Leverett says, what's the reaction of the room to Martin, an MSU alum, leaving after 1 year? Demetrius Martin, tough one for Michigan State. Did a good job with the corners, I thought. Did a good job with Charles Brantley. Did a good job with other corners. Had some injuries there. Brantley went down. Chance Rucker went down. Ed Woods came along. Did a good job in the portal getting Ed Woods. He had a good season. We didn't see much of Jeremiah Hughes. He got on the field late in the year, and then he was injured for the last 2 games, right as he broke into the playing group. Might have even started the last 2 games. Young guy coming in from LSU. Was starting to develop. Didn't really get a great look at him. Ade Willie kind of struggled. I mean, he is what he is. He's doing his best. Demetrius Martin, a good recruiter. Aggressive recruiter. He was a guy that brought in a lot of visitors. Did well in the portal. Did well with the high school ranks. They're going to miss him. So now they're trying to keep Aiden West. That was Demetrius Martin's recruit out of Maryland, DMV area. And as I wrote yesterday, with Martin moving on, the other corners that we talked to, they're still in with Michigan State. West still deliberating. So it's obvious. I mean, Jonathan Smith, and I would imagine Joe Rossi, Blue Adams, they would need to step up and try to bring that one home. We'll see what happens there. But the Demetrius Martin moving on, he's a guy that's moved on a lot throughout his career. West Coast guy. Going back to UCLA, had a previous relationship with Deshaun Foster. They coached together at UCLA previously. So he's going back home. I don't. It's they can replace him. They've got a chance to go out and get someone who's pretty good, but you're gonna have to be really good to be as good as Martin, in my opinion. I think it's a blow. I think it hurts. So that was not good news, in my opinion, for Michigan State. Tough one. Lee Goss from Flossmoor. That's Illinois, I think, isn't it? Good to see you, Lee. Daniel Barry, Sports Highlight, says, hey, Scrammy's here. It's always good to have Scrammy here. Scrammy, did you know that prior to the pandemic, Michiganders were taking back their bottles and their cans at a rate of close to 90%? That has fallen to 75%. That's more than $100 million of unclaimed money and tons of materials that needlessly end up in landfills. Shuban Recycling has been a big supporter of Michigan State athletics over the years, and they are reminding us that one of the beauties of our deposit system is that it creates the cleanest recycling material for the beverage industry to make new cans and new bottles. When Michigan's rate of recycling drops, it hurts the environment and it hurts all of us. So help the environment, help your state, help yourself, take them back. They're your lakes, your roads, and your beaches. And it's your dime. So take them back. It's worth your time and everyone will benefit. Take them back. A message from Shupan, a great Michigan company dedicated to recycling, dedicated to the Michigan State Spartans. I'm sure you knew that. Scrammy, it's great to have you here. We'll go back to question number 2, which is actually 3 for the night, but we'll call it number 2. VMSU from planet Earth's moon says, he asks this question, does Jonathan Smith regret coming here? From the outside, it feels like nobody is happy with the current situation. That's what VMSU says from planet Earth's moon. Does he regret coming here? I'm going to say no. No. He's a competitor like all these guys. He believes in himself. He's got an idea what he wants to do at Michigan State. He wants to work on it. in a big decision like that any of us make in our lives, is there a little bit of a regret and buyer's remorse? Sure, in everything we do. Be real, right? Aren't we all like that? Whether it's the car you buy, or your wife might have some buyer's remorse marrying you after a month or two, after a year or two. So I'm not going to sit here and say that there's zero of that. Wouldn't shock me. Is the job harder, different? Then everything's different until you get in actually that car and drive it. So does he regret it? I think that's too strong a word. Fair question, though. Question 3 from Desert Spartan from Chandler, Arizona. He says, high school recruiting used to be the oil that lubricated the college football engine and kept things running smoothly. Today, in your opinion, is NIL the new oil that keeps the machine operating, or is it still high school recruiting? Good question from Desert Spartan in Chandler, Arizona. It's both of those things. NIL is part of the recruiting oil. Recruiting used to be the lifeblood. You're using engine terms, which I respect, even though you're not in the Motor City, you're in Arizona. I know you have some Michigander in you somewhere. It's in your DNA. I can feel it. So I appreciate the automotive metaphor. Recruiting lifeblood of the program, always has been. NIL is a big part of the lifeblood of recruiting, big part of the lifeblood of the portal, a big part of the lifeblood of retaining people and keeping people out of the portal and retaining your roster. So NIL is the new invasive species to college football. But high school football recruiting is still big. But, 5 years from now, 5 years ago, if you looked at teams in the top 20, we'll say 7 years ago, if you looked at teams in the top 20, top 25, what percentage of their starting lineup were players that they recruited out of high school? I'm guessing 3/4, if not more. Probably 80%, maybe 85% 7 years ago were players that, if you looked at the top 20, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, starting lineup, I'm guessing 80% were people that you recruited out of high school. Maybe 85%. Now, I'm guessing it's less than 33%. Probably less than 50%. Somewhere between 33 and 50%. If you looked at the top 25 teams right now, how many were high school recruits? It used to be if you signed a class of whatever your class was, 25 players, if 2/3 of your recruits became players in the 2 deep, that was good retention. 2/3. You expect 33% attrition. That's what it used to be. 2/3. Like 1/3 starters, another third contributors, 1/3 moves on. That would be like, you can win with that. That's like B- recruiting. That's solid. You get a few classes like that, you should be all right. And you hope somewhere along the line you have a really good class that maybe turns out better than it was ranked or whatever. If you're a program like Michigan State, 33% attrition was acceptable. Now I'm thinking that's flipped. I'm thinking it's going to be like 75% attrition. Some guys don't make it, move on. Some guys are good and move on. Some guys are second string and think they're better than that and move on. So what percentage of your class ends up remaining with your team 4 years from now? I'm guessing it's 33% or less. These numbers are still being hashed out. I might have to look into that, look to see who finishes in the top 25 this year, look to see how many of those are transfers. I know those numbers came out last year. The vast majority of quarterbacks in the top 25 had transferred. So, high school recruiting is it's not that 75% situation that used to be. It's still important. And Jonathan Smith said that he wants high school recruiting to be a big part of his program, but where they are right now and the holes that they have to go to the portal. Everyone else is in the portal. Michigan State at this chapter of their rebuild program has to probably go in more than they want to. Like I said earlier, the good news is they've gotten a lot of early interest and the portal's not even open yet. Coaches can't reach out to them, but they can hear back from it. So if they hear from somebody, they turn on their film, take a look at it, and get ready to talk to them. That's what everybody's doing. Michigan State's getting a lot of interest. And I think that is a potential. We talked about the potential earlier, but it is a resource for Michigan State. When you talk about natural resources of a program, that's a natural resource for Michigan State. Everyone can get into the portal, but there's some pretty good players from the state of Michigan that go elsewhere. One of the things Jonathan Smith was amazed about when he took this job was the number of, and I've talked about this before, the number of players in the NFL from Detroit. Detroit had more players in the NFL last year on opening day NFL rosters. Look it up. Than any city in the country. Detroit had more players on opening day rosters in the NFL, more than Miami, more than Atlanta, more than Los Angeles, more than Dallas. You name the city, Detroit had more. Blew his mind, blew everybody's minds, right? Not all of those players are going to Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, Penn State. Some of them are, but others get to the NFL from, I don't know. I'll just throw, they might go to Rutgers, they might go to Iowa, they might go to Utah State, they might go to Kennesaw State, they might go to Grambling. It varies, but those players are out there. Look at Sauce Gardner. Is he the best corner in the NFL? Went to Cincinnati. And after he became great, I went back and looked at his huddle film, his high school huddle film, and I didn't see it. I'm not Gil Brandt when it comes to evaluating players. I've stayed in Holiday Inn a few times, and I'll talk about it, and I'll look at it, but I'm not Gil Brandt, right? Sauce Gardner's high school film was not that great. I can see why people passed on him. He ends up at Cincinnati, develops, NFL, great player. Some of these guys are late bloomers. Kirk Cousins was a late bloomer. Le'Veon Bell was a late bloomer. Curtis Drummond was a late bloomer. A lot of those guys on D'Antonio's great teams were late bloomers. So there's late bloomers everywhere. Apparently there's a lot in Detroit too, right? And a lot in the state of Michigan. This is the resource that Michigan State has, is that some of those players might look like Sauce Gardner coming out of high school. And Michigan State's going to do their best to pick and choose who the good ones are. And they just offered an offensive lineman in Grand Rapids, Rogers. Is it Rashawn Rogers? I looked at his film. I'm like, 6'5", offensive tackle, moves well, plays basketball, good lateral movement, good change of direction. Big square body, 6'5", can easily carry 300 pounds, it looks like. And the guy's ranked outside of the top 40. His only offer is Wayne State. And for Michigan State, it's an offer. I'm not sure it's like what you'd call a traditional top 85 offer. You have your top 85 offers, then you have your like 86 plus offers. Because right now you're allowed what, 110 players, 105 roster limit, and it's up to you as a program. You can fund all of them if you want. The rich programs probably will. Michigan State's going to try to raise money to get there, I would imagine. So I think Rogers is kind of an 86 plus offer guy. I don't know. But I looked at his film. I'm like, man, he reminds me of J. Michael Dean a little bit. Remember J. Michael Dean? It's like a 2-star coming out of Canada, came to Michigan State, played big square body guy, went to the CFL, won a couple Grey Cups, had an injury, borderline NFL guy, good college player, low 2-star Canadian guy. Then I looked at Alaric Jackson. Was he second round draft choice for Iowa? Was he first rounder, second rounder? Detroiter. Michigan State passed on him. Michigan passed on him. Everybody. Iowa came in, got him. I turned on Alaric Jackson's huddle film. I ask all you guys that. Go watch Rogers' high school film. Go watch Alaric Jackson. It's similar. So Michigan State's turning over some rocks, looking through the state of Michigan. They don't want to miss out on those Alaric Jacksons, right? But they're going to miss out on some. Just had a technical situation, but I think we're okay. They're going to miss out on some. Just because you don't know because Sauce Gardners don't always show themselves to be Sauce Gardner at the age of 19. This is the resource. So, as stated, there's a lot of Detroiters that go to the NFL through various circuitous routes to the NFL. A lot of those guys, once they make it somewhere, would kind of like to come back to the state of Michigan and play. Maybe they always wanted to prove they could play at Michigan State. Maybe they always liked Michigan State. Maybe they visited Michigan State, liked it, didn't get the offer, and they don't hold any ill will toward Michigan State. That's a resource. Hey, Michigan Wolverines are doing a great job recruiting, great job with the roster, all that stuff, great, right? Plant a flag, wonderful, good. Michigan's going to be in the portal getting some players here and there. Maybe not these type of players. Jordan Turner, Luke Newman, Michigander's coming back home. Ruquan Buckley, Michigan State got something on him. Went to Nebraska, didn't do much. Guy from the Grand Rapids area. Big square-body defensive tackle, put him out there. Short yardage situations, other situations. I don't think anyone moved him off the line of scrimmage all year. Played a role. Michigander coming back home. Newman, Michigander coming back home. There's going to be more of those. That's a resource. That's what TCU did a couple years ago when they went to the national title game. They were big on going to the portal, getting a lot of transfers. Texans coming back. Sonny Dykes there wanted to do that at TCU. Might not get the 4 stars coming out of high school, but they'll get those Texans coming back. Problem is at TCU, Houston's got the same idea. Texas Tech's got the same idea. Baylor's got the same idea. Even A&M's going to try to do that a little bit. I'm not saying the state of Michigan's got as much talent as the state of Texas, but there's good talent, as we stated earlier. Wolverines, they're going to get their players, plant a flag, whatever, great. Michigan State's the last school standing in the state of Michigan to get those type of guys. That's going to be a resource. That's something Michigan State needs to plug into, and I think they're going to plug into it. So keep an eye on Michiganders in the portal. Like my boy Rusty out there, kicking left foot 54-yarders. So evaluate those guys. Finding OKGs is going to be a struggle. Our kind of guys, because you show interest in someone, you might have a Zoom call with them. They might come in, then you get to know them. But sometimes they get in the portal and they make a decision. You got to take a guy before he visits. That's what gets to be a little gets to be difficult in terms of having the type of guy you want in your program. You're going to miss on some of those. Turned out Jordan Turner was a gem. Good player, voted captain, leader. Good one, man. Up and down the checklist. So there's challenges when you go into the portal in terms of finding your type of guy. You would prefer to recruit a guy from the age of 16, 17, sign him, 18, come in, redshirt, 19, 20, becomes a captain, and you have him have a 7-year relationship with a player. And you'd love to have 25 of those guys. Keep 25 of those guys happy every single year, because you can't all start. Real hard to do. But that resource for Michigan State is a plus, an unforeseen plus. It's a new climate, new landscape, and that's a little rock that's come out from the tectonic shifts. If I can mix other metaphors, they could help Michigan State, so keep an eye on that. So, and to do well in that portal, it's going to take some NIL money. Some players are in the portal to try to get more money and a better opportunity. Is Michigan State going to be outbidding Oregon for anybody in the portal? No. But some of those guys, your Daquan Dowses, your Jordan Turners, your Luke Newmans, Ed Woods. Once you establish a foundation and you go get some of those guys to fill in, you can do well at a lot of places in the Big Ten doing that. And Michigan State, I think that's going to be part of their sauce, some of their secret sauce. We'll see how it goes this year. I'm interested to see how it goes. Question number 4, Magic 32 from Lansing. He says, who do we send a check to for NIL? And he puts in parentheses, credible source that supports the football team. I'm still not sure on that. I mean, the Spartan Nation NIL thing was launched last April, and that's kind of, the wheels are kind of, I don't know what's going on there. Who's the name and the face of all those things? I mean, it's as volatile as a third world South American country in some ways. So it's changing, but I think this is like the second or third time I've said this. Like last spring, I said, it's getting straightened out. Then it's getting straightened out. Well, I think it's getting straightened out again. Talk to some people. It might not be all the things that we've seen on the message board the last couple of days. It's not all that Kool-Aid stuff, but I think it's going to get squared away. But to answer your question, who do you send the check to? Hold on to it for now, I guess. Unless someone from the fund is watching this that can, I don't know, this guy's name, Magic 32 from Lansing. Yeah, go to if you're running the Michigan State NIL program on an official basis, and you want to contact this guy, become a SpartanMag.com subscriber. Look for a guy posting under the name Magic 32. Send him a direct message through Spartan Mag Mail. I won't be able to see it. No one will. Be just you and Magic 32. And say, Magic 32, I saw you post on Spartan Mag Live, and you want to send a check to our NIL fund. That's where you find him. I don't know who that person might be. But some of that is going to get straightened out as they jump over one obstacle and move on. Question number 5. Ryan from Royal Oak, Michigan. He says, to the best of your knowledge, does the Michigan State Athletic Department hear the fans' disappointment, and have a plan to help Smith? Does the athletic department hear the fans' disappointment and have a plan to help Smith? From the outside looking in, it appears we are not putting Jonathan Smith in the best position to succeed. Do you agree? I have not talked to Jonathan Smith directly about this. I've asked around a little bit and gathered and heard some things, and I think everyone could probably assume and agree that he expected a more fluid, free-flowing NIL support structure and plan. That probably shouldn't be a surprise, because if you want to donate and you don't know who to donate to, you can imagine that there's probably some other problems there, right? You do the math on that. I think that the donor part of it, that class needs Smith to press the flesh a little bit more this offseason as he gets more, as he's become acclimated to the whole climate and the whole calendar around here. And that's one of the tent poles. I mean, you got to be a politician to be a head football coach these days. It's not just X's and O's. It's you've got constituents out there, and you have to keep constituents happy. You have to demonstrate to them that you're on it. We're doing this. It's nice to meet you. How you doing? Yeah, you donated this much. You can come to this practice. We got this number of people, set number of people coming to practice. That's cool. Those things, you got to be a politician. That's part of it. So I think that Michigan State could do better, obviously, to structure some of those support things. And I think Smith's got to work to do some of those other things for the donor class and all those things. As for the athletic department, I've talked to some people this week, and I think there is progress toward handling these obstacles. Like I talked about those obstacles earlier. I think there's some moving on taking place now. All right, question numbers and other things in the more distant future. All right, question number 6. Brian from Flushing, Michigan. He says, who are some of the early leads on who fills the vacant staff role created by Demetrius Martin's departure? He asks, could they opt to have Blue Adams just coach all of the defensive backs and perhaps go with a linebackers coach or something else? Any former Spartan dogs you foresee maybe filling out the staff spot, or could Jonathan Smith go with one of his own guys? Good question. As you know, Blue Adams did handle the entire secondary at Oregon State. That's an option. I got to say the defenses at Oregon State were not great. So yeah, Demetrius Martin and Adams with all these other coaches. Was chemistry great there? Maybe not. I mean, you're bringing guys together. You got a coordinator that some guys didn't. That's new. So there's some ironing out that probably needs to take place there. Do they think that they need 2 DBs coaches again? I'm not sure. It's a good question. It's a fair question. You're asking about former Spartan dogs or guys with connections here. People have mentioned on the message board Archie Collins at Pittsburgh. I'm sure he'd probably like to come back to Michigan State. Garen Duhart is a program assistant at Ohio State, was a graduate assistant at Michigan State. I'm sure he'd like to come back. You look at the defensive backs coaches at Minnesota, thinking those guys might be candidates. You got Nick Monroe was cornerbacks coach for Joe Rossi at Minnesota. Danny Collins was safeties coach and past defense coordinator at Minnesota. Would Rossi be interested in either of those guys? I don't know. Would they want to leave Minnesota to come to Michigan State? Is Michigan State a better job than Minnesota right now? I don't know. What do you think? So I'm sure there are other names that Smith has in mind that we don't know. It might be guys that Joe Rossi has in mind that we don't know. Did any of us see Chad Wilt coming? I mean, after that happened, you could look to see that they coached together, and that makes sense. Will it be a DB's coach? I don't know. Will it be a linebackers coach? I don't know. Really, I don't know. I mean, assistant coach job speculation is one of the more fruitless blind dart operations I've ever tried to be involved in, so I don't know. Question 7, Bill from Jacksonville, North Carolina says, what is the pulse of the locker room? I understand they're disappointed. Is it solid enough to retain the guys that are being developed? I still have faith in this coaching staff, he says. Still have faith. 5-7, still have faith. Good for you, Bill. A lot of people are freaking out. Year number 1, 5-7. That's what Vegas thought. And we freak out when Vegas is right. And some people are right on the message board saying, well, I don't care if Vegas predicted or not. 5-7 is unacceptable. All right. Um, let's see. What is it? 9. What do we have? I was gonna do some math and do something, but let's skip it. I'll talk about something else some other time. All right, he says, what's the pulse of the locker room? I understand they're disappointed. Is it solid enough to retain guys? It's being developed. I still have faith in the coaching staff. The locker room, I'm not in there. I don't know for sure. I like I said earlier, I think it hurts to lose to Demetrius Martin, lose that guy. I think that hurts. They, in terms of players being developed, I think Legi Suayanoa has a good reputation of developing players on the defensive line. I think we saw that at defensive tackle. At the pass rush situation, it's going to take an off season. Joe Rossi was talking about that a couple weeks ago, and that I would agree with that. That makes sense to me. Pass rush is like offensive line work. A lot of that's an off season type of thing. Can Jalen Thompson get back toward becoming a good pass rusher? I think he's a good defensive end. I'm not sure he was ever like a real edge threat pass rusher guy. Ken Talley had that kind of potential. I'm not sure. He's in the portal now. I'm not sure. If I'm not sure where that is, whether they want him back or don't, or he's like, forget it, I'm gone, or just wants to see what money's out there. But that is a guy that's got some pass rush ability. Are the other wheels on the ground? Don't know. I don't know that they're not. I just don't know enough about it. You're asking about the locker room. I've not heard a lot there. But pulse of the locker room, some guys are going to want to stay and grind. Some players that maybe teammates and even coaches want them to go ahead and leave, kind of like Aiden Childs was talking about after the game on Saturday. Wants to find out who wants to stay and who's going to have the right attitude to stay, and if you don't have the right attitude, they want them to leave anyway. So there's some of that. There's going to be more players entering the portal, maybe for playing time, maybe to find out what their market value is, or maybe because they're kind of pushed out. Tough business these days. I was not in favor of this direction of football years ago. Players getting cut and so forth, but that's the way it is. And if you don't do it, then you go 5-7, and people say it's unacceptable. You're getting paid money to win, and the other team you play, they're paying that guy a lot of money to beat you. Question 8, this is Magic 32 again from Lansing. He says, can we be Indiana next year? Can we be the Indiana Hoosiers next year? Is that too much to ask? That's what Magic 32 out of Lansing's asking. By the way, I don't know if Magic 32 is from Lansing. I gave him that city because he's Magic 32. But he didn't tell us what city he's from, so I gave him a city. Over the Underground Bunker message board, if you post a question and you don't say where you're from, I'm going to give you a city. Kind of an Ernie Harwell type of thing, if you know who he is. Can Michigan State be Indiana next year? Magic 32 says, easier schedule. Go big in the portal. Coach up the young talent. Can we be Indiana? No. 11-1, make the playoff? I'm going to say no. Indiana, perfect outlier, one-hit wonder type of thing. I think Indiana's going to do a TCU here in the near future. Hey, they're good this year. They're good right now. That D-line is good. And they had a decent Big Ten roster, and then they added 13 players from a top 20 team, James Madison. Like I said a couple weeks ago when they were playing Indiana, I'm like, imagine, all right, last year, the best teams in the Big Ten were Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. The fourth best team was Iowa. I mean, they couldn't get a first down. Probably the fourth best team in the Big Ten was Iowa. I'm going to tell you a secret. James Madison would have beaten Iowa last year. James Madison would have been the fourth best team in the Big Ten last year. So, you've got a Big Ten roster like Indiana. Not a great team, but hey, Tom Allen had a couple of good recruiting classes. And they retained some of those guys. Remember when he had his good year with the quarterback, Michael Penix, and when they had Kalen DeBoer as offensive coordinator, and Womack was the defensive coordinator, and they were good, and they gave Ohio State some trouble. Then DeBoer went to Fresno, then Washington, and all that stuff. Well, Tom Allen had a couple good years, had a couple good recruiting classes, and those guys were juniors, and that receiver they had this year was part of that time. Anyways, it was a Big Ten roster. Tom Allen's team struggled last year, lost some one-score games, got fired, whatever, but it was still a Big Ten roster. So give me a Big Ten roster like Indiana, or like Michigan State this year, and then bring 13 players from the fourth best team in the Big Ten, which would have been James Madison. Last year it was Iowa. This year, let's say it's Iowa. Now, fourth best team this year. Well, I'm not counting Oregon. Going by last year's teams, fourth best team is what, Illinois or something? I don't know. Let's say Illinois. Give me the 13 best players from Illinois that are eligible to come back next year and add them to Michigan State's roster. Then give me the best quarterback from the MAC and his best receiver, and give me a guy that had 55 catches at Texas Tech last year. So they just reloaded with 14 new starters. Not all those James Madison guys started, but running back, one wide receiver, Surratt's really good, defensive end's really good, linebacker good, center good, nose tackle good, and then you add a good, the best defensive tackle in the MAC, and quarterback. And hey, to their credit, Indiana low on mistakes. They were a good buttoned-up football team this year in year one. Cignetti had them buttoned up, no question. He's done a good job of quality control getting that outfit buttoned up. So good on him, good on them. But in terms of the Jimmies and Joes, they had a nice situation bringing in all those players from James Madison. Now you could say Jonathan Smith brought in players from Oregon State. He did. Quarterback, tight end, center. Is that it? I don't know. Okay, maybe had a chance to bring in more. It's kind of maybe a longer trek. I think you're going to find more players excited to leave James Madison to go to the Big Ten than players leaving Corvallis to go to the Big Ten. So theoretically, he had the same opportunity that Cignetti did, but Cignetti really hit it out of the ballpark with good talent coming in from James Madison. And they did a really good job in the portal. Now they're going to lose a lot of players. Can they do it again? I'd be very impressed if they can do it again. Schedule set up well for them, and they were good. And really good early in the year, played really well against Michigan State, and had trouble against Michigan with that defensive line. And then Indiana against Ohio State, they were going blow for blow with Ohio State. Everyone talks about, man, Ohio State really exposed Indiana. Ohio State steamrolled Indiana. Ohio State's good. I'm like, dude, did you watch that game? That game was close through halftime. It's 21-7 because of two plays in the punt game. Punter drops a punt, touchdown. And then punt return, touchdown. It's 21-7, and the difference was two plays in the punt game. Yes, special teams count. But going back and forth, Indiana was right there with Ohio State. And the 21-7 changed things. Indiana came out of the shell to throw a little bit more. And then Indiana, as well coached as they've been all year. I'd have to go back and watch it again just to make sure I saw it right. But, you saw Ohio State blitz, sack, blitz, sack, blitz, sack, blitz, sack. Indiana was like deep drop, verticals, sack, deep drop, verticals, sack, deep drop, verticals, sack. Ohio State couldn't get pressure with 4. So okay, we'll start sending blitzes. Oh, they're gonna verticals. Indiana was really good early in the year with a lot of RPOs and a lot of checkdowns and a lot of answers. It'd be a sack. I'd rewind it and I'm looking. I'm like, you got 3 guys running downfield. They doesn't have time for the route to get to the top of the route. And I'm just a guy in a press box getting fat, eating donuts. And I can see that. Indiana very well coached all year, not that day. So scoreboard amplifies, everybody thinks Ohio State's great. If you're SpartanMag.com subscriber on the message board last week, I put out there, I'm like, okay, what was Ohio State's best game this year? Probably the loss to Oregon. They beat Penn State, 21-13, whatever, I don't know. Did you watch Ohio State against Nebraska? Did you watch Ohio State against Indiana? Did you really watch Ohio State against Indiana? When Michigan played Indiana, I said, all right, Michigan was terrible against Illinois. Tuttle's a quarterback, he's terrible. Left tackle was hurt, and the second string left tackle was horrible. The next week, or 2 weeks later, Michigan plays Michigan State, left tackle's back, they changed quarterbacks, that was just enough. And that Michigan team was better than the Michigan team that lost to Illinois. Everybody's making fun of Michigan. Oh, they're terrible this year in the state of Michigan. Even their own fans saying that. I'm like, dude, not anymore. Everyone's expecting them to get blown out by Oregon. Michigan played pretty well against Oregon. Didn't get blown out. Ended up losing by 14 or whatever it was. but they were kind of in it. They've kind of played pretty. They do some things well. When you got a D line, you can hang in a lot of games. And I'm like, last year in November, when Harbaugh was suspended, on our message board, I was like, Michigan's pretty good, and Harbaugh's going to be back, and everybody's assuming Ohio State's finally going to beat Michigan. Last year, I'm like, I don't know. I know everybody's expecting Harbaugh to be done. I'm like, he's going to be in the Big Ten title game, playing to get into the playoff, and then after that, who knows? And our own subscribers came after me with pitchforks and torches. And if you were there, you remember it. They were shooting stuff at me. They were lobbing grenades at me. They were telling me I'm an idiot. They hated me. How dare you predict that Michigan's going to be in the playoff? No, they're going to get on probation. They're going to lose to Ohio State. They're done. I'm like, dude. So last week, I stopped short of doing that again because I took too many grenades last year. But if you go back and look at cryptically what I posted, and now everybody's astonished that Ohio State lost to Michigan. A little surprised that Ohio State lost. Was I surprised it was close? Not at all. I expected a close game. And once it was a close game, am I surprised that Ohio State choked it away? No. Michigan's got a good defense. They're better since that quarterback's. I don't know. He threw some bad interceptions, but they're better than they were against Illinois. It's a different team. So, and Michigan looked good against Indiana. I don't know if you remember that. Indiana's a pretty good team, but Michigan should have won that game. Indiana, good team. The other thing that Cignetti inherited was a functional offensive line, thanks to the Tom Allen recruiting. They brought in one guy, the right tackle, transfer portal from Wisconsin. The rest of them, I'm not saying they're great, but functional enough for their offense to function, something Michigan State didn't have this year. Credit to Cignetti. Indiana was a buttoned-up operation, very few mistakes, complicated with their coverages. With the defensive line that can get penetration, one gapping scheme, good team. But ran into some trouble because Michigan had a defensive line that began to dominate things. Defensive line, that's for years that was the common denominator of all national champions through the 85 scholarship era. Up until maybe a couple of years ago, maybe somebody won without a great D-line. Can't remember who it was. But Michigan's had a good D-line. That's not a complete equalizer, but if you've got a quarterback problem, that D-line can get after the quarterback and stop the run. That's a big part of winning football, right? Michigan State, meanwhile, hard to be much better than 5-7 when you don't really have an offensive line and your defensive backfield has a bunch of freshmen. You're starting 2 freshmen back there, and 6 of your top 8 defensive backs are out. You can maybe get by with one of those deficiencies and be a 6-6, 7-5 team, but when you have both of those things, an offensive line you can't trust, and a young, injured freshman defensive backfield, then you're 5-7. And we want to wring our hands. Why are we losing to Rutgers? Dude, Rutgers ain't bad. Why are we losing to Illinois? Dude, Illinois is not bad. You know what Illinois and Rutgers have? They got a 4th-year coach and a 5th-year coach. How you like them apples? So anyway, Indiana, can Michigan State be Indiana next year? And also, Indiana had very little attrition when the coaching change came in. I think it was Cignetti. The guy at anyway, they had low attrition. But TCU national title next year, 5-7. Now they're 8-4. I mean TCU, but they're in the Big 12 schedule. 8-4 in the Big 12, same thing as 7-5 in the Big 10. But TCU is recruiting pretty well this year. I don't know. Can Michigan State be Indiana next year? No, not 11-1. Next year's schedule, you mentioned it's manageable. It is manageable if you've got a pretty good team. Is Michigan State be pretty good? Remains to be seen. I don't even know who's on the offensive line next year yet. Preseason or the early season schedule, Western Michigan's going to a bowl game. It's not going to be easy. I'll take Michigan State, I guess. Youngstown State, love the Penguins. Love everything about the Penguins. Love them. Loved it when Tressel was there. They just come out and play Tressel ball. for Youngstown State, the Penguins, and they'd beat you 12-6 and hoist trophies. Beautiful. I love that brand of football back then in the early 90s. Yeah, I'm old. But I think Michigan State beats Youngstown State. Boston College come to Michigan State next year. It's one of those swing games. Swung the wrong way this year. Michigan State not quite good enough to win in the rain and make the plays. Had that mistake down the sideline when Cal Halliday collided with Malik Spencer, going over the top to stop the run, down the sideline, touchdown. Missed a couple guys, missed opportunities. Not good enough to win. Boston College next year, O'Brien's second year. That's going to be a good game, another swing game. Make it happen. Now, home games, Maryland, UCLA. Get to see Demetrius Martin back on campus. The Flag Planters, Penn State. Michigan, are they going to be good next year? They can play the freshman quarterback next year? Now, at Michigan, you got to go, at least 10-2. Get in the playoff, maybe, and then people are kind of happy, right? That's where it's going to be. 9-3 might not be good enough, right? Do they expect to go 10-2 with a freshman quarterback next year? Is that the idea? Good luck with that. A lot of talent. We'll see. Again, I don't know who's playing for Michigan State next year, but I'm not chalking that one up automatically as a loss. Penn State looks like their program's pretty good. Penn State might be the number 1 seed here in a couple weeks. If Georgia beats Texas in the SEC title game, and if Penn State beats Oregon in the Big Ten title game, your number 1 seed in the college football playoff is going to be Penn State. And that will have been like the first big game Franklin's ever won if they beat Oregon. So, not hold my breath on that one. But anyway, Penn State coming to Spartan Stadium. By the way, here's a side note. Everyone's talking about Michigan State's attendance being down this year. Go back and look how many times in the last 75 years has a Michigan State home schedule not included Michigan or Notre Dame. It's probably like 4 times, 3 times, not many times. For years, Michigan State sold tickets on Michigan's coming to visit, give me a season ticket. And then the next year, Notre Dame's coming. And Notre Dame still has a good name. It's Notre Dame, right? But Notre Dame had a huge name, right? In the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. It's dissipated a little bit, but Notre Dame was a huge brand, the biggest brand in college football. And they were coming to Spartan Stadium every other year, the year that the Wolverines weren't in Spartan Stadium. So every year, the season ticket buyers had a huge linchpin game to look forward to. Then Notre Dame went off the schedule. Michigan State wanted to keep them on the schedule, but they kind of had other things they needed to do. Notre Dame's going to be coming back on the schedule just briefly here in the near future. Always been a good relationship between Michigan State and Notre Dame. Partly because Notre Dame scheduled Michigan State when they were kind of still an independent back in the 50s, 30s. I mean, George Gipp and those guys played at Old College Field back in 1918. They played on Old College Field, literally on the banks of the Red Cedar. George Gipp was there. So Newt Rockne coached team. And Michigan State beat Rockne on the banks of the Red Cedar, 1918. And at halftime, they had a little march at halftime celebrating the end of World War I. But Michigan State was playing Notre Dame way back then. Rockne liked Michigan State. Lyman Frimidig, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Lyman Frimidig, old-time Michigan State sports administrator back in that time. According to legend, Lyman Frimidig, in his office in the athletic department at Michigan State, I assume at Genesee Fieldhouse, in his desk had a piece of paper, and it was a contract, and it was a signed contract by Knute Rockne to become head football coach at Michigan State College. Actually, I think it was Michigan Agricultural College then. He was going to leave Notre Dame to coach at Michigan State and sign the contract. Didn't happen. Legend has it that was the name of that tune. I don't know. Crowley, one of the Four Horsemen. Four Horsemen, Notre Dame, 1924. Crowley, Notre Dame, coached at Michigan State, head coach. And he left Michigan State to become head coach at Fordham. Can you imagine a coach leaving Michigan State to go to coach Fordham? But when he got to Fordham, had some good linemen there, including the 7 blocks of granite. Who was one of the 7 blocks of granite? Vince Lombardi. Anyway, enough about that. But anyway, through the years, Michigan State would have either Notre Dame or Michigan on the schedule every year, and that sold a lot of tickets. That was the backbone. That and tailgating and having some good teams periodically was the backbone of ticket sales. So there's been a lot of problems at the Mel Tucker situation. Have all these night games. Some people aren't real keen on the portal NIL thing. High definition televisions serve as competition. So that's why Michigan State's not drawing 72,000 anymore. All those things. Tailgating's gotten better. There was a couple years there when they kind of made it harder on tailgaters. Michigan State, some people at Michigan State have looked to see what they can do to make tailgating better. They're working on it. But tailgating is good. But when you don't have a Notre Dame draw this year, then that kind of hurts ticket sales. The Friday night games sucked. The one against Purdue, the late November games. There's a lot of reasons to make it harder for fans to want to go to Michigan State home football games. And if the team is 500, that hurts also. But next year, Michigan's on the schedule and Penn State. And really, UCLA is going to be fun to have in town, right? I know UCLA brand is really taking a dive. They're not what they used to be, but that'll be an interesting set of helmets in the stadium. Boston College is going to add some color. So instead of Notre Dame on the schedule for a home and home every single year, this year it was Boston College. Nothing against Boston College, but Doug Flutie's not walking through that door, right? So I know they had a home and home with Washington. That was interesting. Got blown out twice. Had a home and home with Miami. One of them got canceled because of COVID. Had a home and home with Arizona State. Different, but not Notre Dame. When you don't have when you have the alternated Michigan State, Notre Dame, Michigan State, Michigan, Notre Dame, sold a lot of tickets. For a lot of years there, it was Ohio State, Michigan, alternating, which is good, but Ohio State, there's some good matchups there, but it's not Notre Dame. Not Notre Dame. Ohio State's better than Notre Dame, but having Notre Dame in there every September also. It was like a bowl game in September. You knew the weather was going to be great. Season was still new. The Notre Dame series was a big part of what made Michigan State football attractive. It was a big part of what helped the athletic department sell season tickets. And that's no longer part of the situation. Just another reason that makes it harder for Michigan State to sell tickets. Stadium, everybody knows, stadium needs some work. They're looking for ways to make that more comfortable. But do you pump money into the stadium to make it more comfortable when you actually need to have money for NIL? Still, you need money to pay off Mel Tucker still. You need money to pay for the gymnastics building that they're building and all these things. So, I don't know. Anyway, home games. Maryland, UCLA, Michigan, Penn State. So you beat Western Michigan, you beat Youngstown State. Let's say you beat Boston College. Again, I don't even know who's on the offensive line. But it's probably going to be better. Give me 3 wins there. Let's say you beat Maryland. Let's say you beat UCLA. Michigan and Penn State, can I get a split? Can I get a split? Can I get a split? Let's give it a split. I don't know who's on the team, but let's call it a split. 6. Away games at Indiana. Who's Indiana got? I don't know. At Iowa. Always tough. They had a bunch of seniors on defense. I don't know who they're going to... I don't know what they're going to have. At Minnesota. Minnesota, that's a buttoned-up program. They get what they can out of their players, and Joe Rossi was a part of that for a while. You know, say what you want about head coach. What's the dude's name? Coached at Western. Anyway, he does a good job. And we were there last year. He was getting booed. They're booing that guy last year. Ran the ball on 3rd and 6, kick a field goal, boo. I'm like, really? Minnesota, yeah, you don't forget who you are. At Nebraska, it's going to be tough. At USC. At USC is the last game of the year. It's game 12. It's Thanksgiving weekend. I'll be there. I hate to be the person that's like, man, I'd rather go to State College Thanksgiving weekend. Battle the snow flurries, driving down the Pennsylvania Turnpike, might get a little bit sideways here and there. I don't want to be the sports writer complaining about going to a football game in Los Angeles, but I'd rather go to State College. So, how many wins? Did I have 6 wins? All right, Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota. Can you win one of those? Give me 7. At Nebraska, at USC. Win one of those? I don't know. Going to be next year's Indiana? No. What they can be is, again, I don't know who the players are. Year 2 of Brett Bielema at Illinois, they went 8-5. Year 1, he went 5-7 at Illinois. Year 2, he went 8-5. Remember, and one of those 5 losses was Mel Tucker the week after the tunnel incident. I think Michigan State can be what Bielema had in year 2, but they got to make, I think it's possible, but got to get a lot done in the portal. Bring them in, winter conditioning, spring practice, see what they got. That's what I think is in play. I think it's possible. We'll see. Question 9, MSU DeBest from Traverse City, Michigan. One of the great towns anywhere. He says, what's the driver behind the poor recruiting so far, in your opinion? Is the West Coast thing coming back to bite us because of the lack of relationships? Is the staff just not very good at recruiting? He says, parentheses, they weren't very good at Oregon State. He says, I know Jonathan Smith told Alan Haller he didn't need as big of a staff as Tucker did, and Alan Haller loved that, he says. But maybe that extra staff is necessary to recruit at a high level. All fair questions. So the main thing is, what's the driver behind Michigan State's poor recruiting so far? So Michigan State right now, recruiting class is what, like number 58 in the country? In the On3 rankings, number 56. When they were at Oregon State, his last year at Oregon State, they were number 49. And they had 3 4-stars. And I know that rankings aren't everything, but I've said for years, and I still stick to it, I've been saying it for 25 years. If you have a top 10 recruiting class, that means something. That means you've beaten a lot of programs for some coveted players. It doesn't mean you're going to be great, but you probably have some good horsepower there. Maybe you took all the wrong kids. Maybe you can't develop, but you got some pretty good groceries to work with. Top 15 means something. Top 20 means something. Top 25 means something. Is number 22 much different than number 29? No. Been doing this a long time. I've covered Michigan State recruiting classes that were 22 and some that were 29, and there's no difference. The difference is, do you have players that fit your needs? And how well did you evaluate? A couple years ago, Mel Tucker had a top 25 class, and guys like By Job and Andrew DePape were the highest ranked guys on there. 2 of the highest ranked guys. They came in but 4 stars, dude. Looked good in the funny papers. A lot of programs kind of like those guys. Did Iowa recruit DePape? All right, so anyway, top 25 means something. And I've said for a long time that a class ranked between 26 and 46, 26 and 45, no difference. Just like when you're looking at the AP top 25 right now, you have your top 25 teams in the country. Then you have those teams at the bottom also receiving votes. Some pretty good teams down there, right? Number 26 might be, I don't know. TCU. And then there's a few others. There might, like, you look at like number 34, 20, or you look at like the 38th team receiving votes, and maybe it's Rutgers. Do you think there's much difference between TCU and Rutgers? One is 26 and one's 38. There's no difference. They could beat each other, whatever. Same thing in recruiting. 26 class, 45 class, doesn't matter. What matters is how well did you do with your needs? How well did you do with evaluation? How well are you going to do in player evaluation, player development? I've seen D'Antonio have some good classes ranked 28, 32. It's been my experience at Michigan State over the years that if you have a recruiting class outside the top 45, that's when the ice gets thin. You don't want to have too many classes outside the top 45. I've said that for years. I'm sticking to it. You don't want to have a lot of classes. You don't want to have back-to-back classes that are 52, 53. This year, Michigan State right now is 56. I used to say that back before the portal days. Portal's a game changer. If the portal didn't exist and Michigan State had the number 56 recruiting class, I'd be like, ooh. Michigan State's got 14, 15 commitments. I had heard, they were in on some other players. They had their A list. Maybe they needed to go deeper with their A list. Maybe didn't get their A's and B's. And rather than reach down to some C's and D's, they just kept those roster spots and said, we're going for the portal for those guys. That's what I heard. I've not heard that from Jonathan Smith. I'll look into that a little bit deeper. But anyway, they're 14, 15 guys and not stretching past that. Would you love to have 25 guys right now and 16 of them are 4-stars? You got a top 10 class? Sure. Didn't work out that way. Didn't have a lot of visitors that are 4-star types. When they do it over again next year, might they be more aggressive in that area? Maybe so. At Oregon State, their final year, they're number 49 in the country with 3 4-stars. One of those was Aiden Childs. The year before that, number 58 in the country. The year before that, number 80 in the country with 12 signees. Not sure what happened there. That was during the COVID year. The year before that, number 51 in the country. The year before that, number 68 in the country in 2019. So that's where they recruited at Oregon State. 68, 51, 80, 58, 49. That being said, there's a little something called a little bit of a West Coast, East Coast bias. We hear about the East Coast bias. Well, out West, some of those teams, the recruits are not ranked as high by these East-biased recruiting ranking services. So, whereas their recruiting classes were 68, 51, 80, 58, maybe they were actually 38, 31, 30, 28, if those players have been evaluated by everybody on a regular basis. So, there's a moving target in there somewhere. The portal's part of it, but I'll stand by my theorem that you don't want to be ranked outside of the top 45 all that often at all. Different with the portal. These guys are recruiting with that Oregon State mindset a little bit. And so we'll talk about the Oregon State players that they had committed to Oregon State that they brought with them to Michigan State this year. Guys that were committed to Oregon State, then Jonathan Smith gets the Michigan State job and he brings them with him. How'd they do this year? We saw Andrew Brinton playing a lot at corner. He's an Oregon State recruit, played this year as a true freshman. Looked like a true freshman. I don't remember him screwing anything up. I don't remember him looking bad. I remember him looking young. Brinton seemed be pretty good. Ranked number 983 in the country as a recruit. That would make him 3-star, not quite a low 3-star, but kind of a low mid 3-star. Played as a true freshman, played a lot of snaps, did okay. Rakeem Johnson played some right tackle. Looks like a good player in the future. I think he might be a future center. I've not heard that from the coaches yet, but it wouldn't surprise me. A lot of athletic ability. Can really move. If that's a guy that can snap and pull and get out, that can help you get some +1s out on the edge. And just you can do a lot of things with a mobile center. And as a true freshman, he had the brain power to pick everything up. They were impressed with what he did from guard to tackle, learning different positions in year one. So I suspect he could probably could be somebody at center long term. Rakeem Johnson, they got out of Idaho, number 1,084 in the country. Low 3-star, borderline 2-star. He's listed as a 3-star, but I don't think On3 has 2 stars. I think the lowest they go is 3-star. So, some of the other places we call low 3-star, mid 3-star, high 3-star. I go by the total national ranking. Anyone outside of the top 1,000 is kind of getting into that low 3-star area. Looks pretty good. A guy that a lot of programs would like to have. Point is, these guys were Oregon State recruits, 3 stars. If you have a bunch of guys like this, you're going to have a class outside the top 50. But you need some 4 stars. You need some Nick Marshes in there, some Charles Brantleys. Brendan Parachek's going to take him some time to keep going, but you need guys like that. Other Oregon State guys they brought in, Mekhi Frazier, we saw him at running back this year. Brandon Tullis, saw him at running back this year. Both those guys were Oregon State guys. Let's see. Brandon Tullis was ranked number 1,587. Mekhi Frazier, number 1,689. They're both 2 stars. I mean, they're technically 3 stars, but like I said, they don't have 2 stars anymore. These guys they were 2 stars. They played this year, had a couple carries, didn't look bad. Are they home run hitting next level guys? No. Do I think the guy they're signing Wednesday, Zion Gist or Geist or Gist, I don't know how to say it, the guy from Illinois? I think Gist's high school film looks better than Frazier's and Tullis's. And Gist was a Western Michigan MAC recruit, decommitted. Was he looking at Michigan State? Maybe one other, like West Virginia, something like that. I'm not sure. Gist looks pretty good to me. Looks like a guy that can play. I'm not saying he's great. A couple years ago, I had Jordan Simmons as a 4-star. Is Gist better than Jordan Simmons? Maybe. Simmons played a little bit as a true freshman. His playing time went down as he was here. Transferred to Akron, had a decent year at Akron this year. 3-star, 4-star ranking, whatever. Gist looks all right. They lost, of course, Jace Claricio, East Lansing High School, going to Alabama now. Got a lot of speed, questions with durability. Could he be a defensive player down the road? Maybe. You like to have that speed. You hate to lose a hometown guy. But there was a price with him. Would you rather that money go to him or a Daquan Dowse type of guy in the portal? Your value, you're going to be better value in the portal. Hey, Clarizio might be pretty good. He's got a lot of speed. You'd like to have speed at some place, but go in the portal, look for a K-Ron Lynch Adams. I understand that decision. Others that came from Oregon State. Rustin Young ended up being second-string left tackle. Got in a couple of games this year. Didn't look good. Looked like a freshman. Looked like a teenager. He's got a lot of work to do. Got on the field. Got his feet wet. Got his feet burned. Preserved redshirt status. Learned a few things. Get back in the weight room, young man. Kekai Burnett was Scout Team Player of the Week at least once. He got in a couple of games, and I need to go back and just watch it, even if it's just a couple of snaps. I don't remember what he looked like. Wyatt Hook, tight end, a guy that I thought his high school film looked excellent. 6'6", catch radius, hands. He looks to me, I pegged him last year as one of the sleepers of the entire class. Loved him. Didn't get on the field this year. I think he was banged up a little bit. We'll have to wait and see how he develops. All those things. How much do you want it? All those things. But he's got some tools. So wait and see on him. Peyton Stewart, offensive lineman, injured most of the year. Didn't see him at all. So these were the Oregon State guys. 8 of them. 8 players came in. We saw 4 in the playing group. I'm not saying they were great, but these were guys from a recruiting class at Oregon State that was probably going to be around 50 again. So I'm talking about their track record as evaluators. And evaluators and player development, it was those recruiting classes, 68, 51, 80, which led to a team that, won 10 games 2 years ago? Damian Martinez at running back blew the horse crap out of Florida in a bowl game. So they built it that way. So it's more of the same. Now they've gone through the Michigan State neighborhood, calendar, schedule. They see what they're up against. And like Jonathan Smith said, it's competitive here. It's competitive now. That's just kind of, a now is like an exclamation. It doesn't mean like now as in it didn't used to be. It's like it's competitive now. I don't know if you understand that. Just trying to translate. And he was asked what he learned about the Big Ten. He says he was talking about the line of scrimmage means something. So they know they've got to beef it up. As they've recruited in the past, who they have to recruit against, all those things help them learn the lay of the land. Sometimes it takes a year to do it. So you're asking about the recruiting, and your question was, what's the driver behind the poor recruiting so far? So I defined some of those terms, compared it to what they did at Oregon State. Not ideal. Portal provides potential for a cushion. Can they live at number 58 going forward? Judging by in the past, I'd say no, but the portal makes things different. And you look at recruiting rankings right now, Michigan State's number 56, Brigham Young's number 58. Brigham Young's always recruiting in the 50s. And pretty good team this year. Kansas, number 60. Had a good team last year. This year had some good moments. 71's Louisville surprises me a little bit. They've got 12 commitments, only 3. 12, and they're all 3 stars, Louisville. They're probably planning to hit the portal hard also. Boise State's number 80. 15 3 stars. Pretty good team. Similar mindset. You look around the Big Ten, Ohio State's number 4 right now, 25 commitments. 3 of them 5 stars. 16 are 4 stars. I mean, you go out to recess, and Ohio State gets to pick first. And they put their team together. That's just the way it is. Oregon's number 6. They've been recruiting well for several years. Lanning has a good roster. What's his name? From Miami. Did a good job recruiting there for a couple of years. Number 7 recruiting now is Michigan. Plant a flag. Number 15 is Penn State. 17, USC. Interestingly, this one jumped out at me. Number 19 is Georgia Tech. This guy's named Brent Keys. Doing a good job recruiting there. Good job coaching. Well-coached team. First game of the year against Florida State. Well-coached team against Georgia last week. recruiting well. I hear Georgia Tech. I hear their NIL situation is well structured and they're gangbusters there. And you're seeing a rise from Georgia Tech right now. Reminds me of the rise we started to see from Clemson about 12 years ago. Georgia Tech number 19 in recruiting. 7 4-stars. Don't need to remind you they're in a talent-laden state. They've got some admission hurdles, but they got a good thing going there. 21, Nebraska. Recruiting rankings. 22, Clemson. Clemson got it going with a bunch of top 10 classes. And that was one thing. That was the one program that started showing up in the top 15 in recruiting before they became a top 15 program. You know, people, a lot of times we wonder, recruiting rankings, you know, is it a chicken or the egg? Did the recruiting services just automatically put Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, you know, no matter who they recruit, just put them up there because it'll sell subscriptions or whatever. Maybe that was some of it years ago. Maybe a little bit now, but it's a little bit more formulated now. But still, you know, those teams are picking first, so they're going to have high recruiting classes. But Clemson got some top 10 classes before they were a top 10 team. And they had top 10 recruiting classes, and then the program, that was like a very interesting case study, you know, 12, 14, 15 years ago when Clemson had the recruiting classes before they emerged as a national power. And I thought that was a strong indicator that some of these recruiting rankings have some, I don't want to say like whole scale, hardline, lead pipe cinch validity, but there's something to it. It's not as accurate as your AccuWeather forecast, but it's a barometer. It's a worthwhile barometer, these rankings. 26, Washington, going around the Big Ten. 28, Rutgers. Rutgers got off to a real strong start. They've got 27 guys they're going to sign, 1 4-star. They were really aggressive with commitments. Got the kid from Muskegon. Threw some money at him. Got him. Good for them. Solid player, whatever. Ending up with a 28 recruiting class. They put a lot of work into it. Seems like they could and should do better than that with some Pennsylvania, New Jersey kids. They've always thought that, but they can make something out of 28. But they signed 27 guys. Number 28 class. Number 30 class, Colorado. Deion Sanders has said, we're not going to do much with recruiting. If we're signing you as a recruit, he says, we're expecting you to play right away. Otherwise, we're going to the portal. Making no bones about it. So Colorado, 15 commitments, 6 of them are 4-stars. They're going portal. Ended up having a decent year this year. We'll see. Number 32, Iowa, 14 signed. 5 of them are 4-stars, only 14 commitments. So Iowa's a little low on commitments. Are they going more portal heavy too? Looks like it. 40, UCLA. 45, Illinois. 19 signed, 0 4-stars. 46, Arizona State. You heard of them? They're making some waves. If they beat Iowa State, they're probably going to the playoff. And they've got 20 signed, and Arizona State has, 2 4-stars? Think about Arizona State with their current roster. I assume they hit the portal a lot. I know they've got Sam Leavitt, former Michigan State quarterback, a guy that I liked. Last year when they played at Minnesota, Leavitt went in for the last 2 drives, true freshman, looked good. I said back then, I said, Leavitt looks good, man. I heard that there's some insiders in that program that thought he was the best quarterback basically all along. Leavitt's good. I'm not surprised. Their recruiting classes. Number 33 in 2021 at Arizona State, Herm Edwards, including some illegal cheeseburgers. And then Herm Edwards was fired. They had number 108 recruiting class in 2022. In 2023, number 48 recruiting class. I don't know how many of those guys they missed or lost or whatever. Dillingham's doing a good job there. 34 years old. Offensive coordinator for who? Malzahn. Offensive coordinator, Memphis. Offensive coordinator for Norvell at Memphis and then Florida State. And then offensive coordinator for Lanning at Oregon for a year. Then goes to Arizona State. Done a good job. And when he was at Memphis, they had some good offenses. And he was a youngster, and he's done a good job. Arizona State graduate, Arizona native, the first person to ever be head coach at Arizona State who was an Arizona State graduate and native. And they got him at 34 years of age. He's got a lot of energy, and he's begging for NIL money. Interesting situation going on at Arizona State. So good on them. Recruiting-wise, right now, number 46. Number 47, Utah. They've been pretty good over the years. They always do a great job of evaluation and player development. 48 is Indiana. Signetti, your boy. Number 48 recruiting class in the country, 22 signatures, 1 4-star. Number 49, Minnesota. They do a lot with little. 21 signed, 1 4-star. 54, Iowa State. They might be in the playoff. 18 signed, 1 4-star. And that coach, Campbell, I could see him moving on after this season. Could see Rhett Lashley at SMU moving on. North Carolina, you got Jamie Chadwell. Liberty, North Carolina. West Virginia is looking for somebody. Rumors about Jimbo Fisher going to West Virginia. Good luck with that. 54 Minnesota. I'm sorry, 49 Minnesota, 54 Iowa State, and then 56 Michigan State with the so-called poor recruiting class right there with Iowa State and Indiana. So, yeah, this 15-man recruiting class, no 4-stars. I think Aiden West, if they get him, I think he's 4-star material. Bryson Williams, if they get him, I think he's Connor Hayward material. I got to look at some others. I got to watch some more senior film. I'll have more on that later this week as we cover signing day on Wednesday. SpartanMag.com. Go check it out. Become a subscriber. Love to have you over there. I'm going to go through the rest of these questions real quick. Question 9, Cool Breezes from Royal Oak, Michigan says, hey, Jim, how do you feel about the development of the offensive line this season? I thought the run game was an improvement over last season, he says. Curious to hear your thoughts. Offensive line. Run game was inconsistent. We all know that. Development, I thought Stanton Ramil came along as a left tackle. I thought Luke Newman came in out of the portal, did a pretty good job. Tanner Miller was what he was. He's solid, pretty good, whatever. Collectively, they had trouble in a lot of areas. Right tackle, pass protection was iffy. Right guard was shaky and consistent. Collectively, individually, Stanton Ramil struggled against Michigan. Later in the year was better. Got a good future, I think. They had problems with those tackles for losses, especially when they played, when it was inside zone or outside zone, either zone running scheme. When they faced one gapping defenses, they would give up those, like 3 guys in the backfield at the same time. It's like they were surprised when a team would go from 2 gapping to 1 gapping. And that was common, whether it be like a 1st and 10 in the red zone or something that would be a drive stopper early in a drive. Happened. Michigan State gave up more tackles for loss than anyone in the Big Ten, something like that. Quite often it was zone against one gapping scheme. A lot of times it'd be a 2 gapping team that would surprise you with 1 gap, and Michigan State never figured that out. Not sure why. That needs to get fixed. So, pass protection, right tackle struggled, right guard struggled. They didn't have any depth later as the year went along. Of course, they had the 2 injuries. So, offensive line was going to be a big question mark anyway. We knew that, right? Big Dooley Phillips gets injured. Brocious gets injured. Had to move Baldwin to right guard. Never quite was great there. Ramil was better as the season went along. Not great. Michigan State ends up 16th in the Big Ten in yards per carry at 3.51. 16th in the Big Ten, only ahead of Northwestern and UCLA. That being said, 3.51 is a lot better than last year. Last year, 2.90. So they really improved their per carry, but didn't move up a lot in terms of peer group in the Big Ten. But 3.5 in run yards per play was an improvement. Pass protection was worse. Michigan State was dead last in sacks allowed with 36 in the Big Ten. Last year, Michigan State was number 8 in the Big Ten in sacks allowed with 25. So, look at Nathan Carter. Last year, he averaged 4.3 yards per carry. This year, he averaged 4.3 yards per carry. 70 fewer carries, but that's about the same. So, development of the offensive line did not have a ton to work with. Did not have a very good year. So that's the name of that tune. And right guard is gone, center's gone, left guard is gone. Right tackle, not sure. Left tackle, I assume he's going to be coming back. I'm sure they'd love to have him back. Seems to love it around here. Beautiful kid. Need to hang on to him. Hearing from sources that Michigan State's going to go after 4 offensive linemen in the portal. 4. So I'm guessing 3 are going to be starter quality guys. I would think, I would hope, I would assume. Stay tuned on that. We'll have coverage at SpartanMag.com. Question 10, Ernie in Colorado. We are now a year into the Smith tenure. From your chair, what grades would you give Smith for year 1 for things like roster management, player development, in-game coaching, recruiting, and NIL donor management? Dang, Ernie in Colorado. Back in the old days, I could have written an entire Spartan magazine on those 5 things. And it would take a lot of research. And I just got your question an hour ago. So I'm not really prepared for all 5 of those questions. I feel like I'm in a social studies final exam all of a sudden. Over at room 103, Chittenden Hall. Roster management. Portal additions were good. We went over that in last SpartanMag Live. Michigan State got a lot of hits on the portal last year. Listed them last. I'm not going to go through them all, but they did well in the portal. So roster management, pretty good in that regard. Roster, 61 new players, tough slog. So, given what they had, day one they had no quarterbacks. Bring in Childs, youngest quarterback in the Big Ten. I know Raiola was a freshman, but I think Childs is younger. Going to be some growing pains there. No surprise there. So player development, quarterback, slow, steady progress, I'd say. Childs took better care of the ball late in the year, not as many of the turnovers. Still needs to do, making those reads, anticipating pre-snap and all those things was better. Needs to keep coming along there, and that's going to determines whether he just kind of becomes okay, or if he becomes a superstar, becomes a star. His ability to, well, first of all, he needs a run game and some pass protection. If he gets those things, and then making those reads, and you don't know until you see him do it. Just like in Major League Baseball, you don't know if a dude can hit a Major League curveball until he gets in the Major Leagues and tries to hit a Major League curveball. Some guys don't get there because they can't hit a minor league curveball, but you can't simulate it. You can't look at it in the draft, and you don't know. Especially a curveball out of the same keyhole. All right, player development. Tight end Jack Velling. Blocking needs to continue to come around. I mean, he was missing blocks every game. Good kid, tries hard. Finally got a touchdown in the last game of the year. Got hurt, 11th game of the year. Good for him. Glad he's healthy, but he's got to hit the weight room. He's got to improve his blocking. So does Parachek. Parachek gave up an expensive tackle for loss in that last game. Parachek's got some skills, got some ability. Maybe, if Parachek were in this program in the D'Antonio era, he would have redshirted last year. I think he might have redshirted last year. No, he didn't redshirt last year. But he would have been they didn't always have great tight ends. So I'm not sure. Anyway, Parachek, those guys got to block better and come along better at the tight end position. Wozniak's a good coach. Got to get after those guys, get some production there. Masunis was looking good as a blocker. Now he's got to get healthy, come along as a pass receiver, be a two-way threat. So player development at tight end, not great this year. It wasn't. Velling, was what he was. Offensive line, I talked about that a moment ago. We were talking about player development. Stanton Ramil came along. Lepo was a little better than he was earlier in the year. Hey, green-white game on this show, I was like, well, Lepo would have liked to have played better in the green-white game, I think. A lot of people think green-white game is nothing, it's vanilla, and you don't know. If you watch closely, sometimes you can see some guys that play well and some guys that don't. Lepo, love the kid, working hard, doing his thing, whatever. Was a starter in this green-white game and didn't play like a guy that could start. But they had to start him anyway. Saw that in the green-white game. Saw that in the green-white game from Ade Willie, too. And that was the same Ade Willie we saw this fall. Good kid doing his best is what it is. Maybe he can improve. Maybe they both can improve, but that's what they are right now. So offensive line, player development, Ramil improved. Like I said, whatever reasons, they had trouble with some one-gapping on some of those zone plays. Not sure. And offensive line, hey man, they were nominated for the whatever Hale Moore offensive line of the year of the universe of all time last year at Oregon State. Had some good offensive lines. So we're wondering, were those good offensive lines against Pac-12 where the line of scrimmage was not as combative as it is in the Big Ten? At Oregon State, they were the knuckleball with that style of play. They come to Michigan State, and in the Big Ten, it's not as much of a knuckleball. Those teams see that from Iowa, see it a little bit from Michigan in recent years, Rutgers, Illinois. So, maybe they've got some adaptation to do also as they continue to add their own offensive linemen and develop players. So, wide receiver route running, I thought separation was really good the first half of the year. We talked about that. I mean, you had more open receivers last year than you had this season early in the year than you had in like the month of September and October than you had the previous 2 years. Even when you had great, Keon Coleman and some of those guys, and he's making catches in traffic all the time. But remember last year when offense was not good, it was like, man, can't get any separation. Michigan State was getting separation the first half of the year. Second half of the year, not as much. I asked Jonathan Smith about that in one of the post-game press conferences. He says, well, part of it is we've got some film out there now so people know what we're doing. That's part of it. I don't know. But Player development, Glover's coming along. Isaiah Johnson's coming along. But I'm hearing they're going to go in the portal for 2 or 3 wide receivers now. Can they hang on to Nick Marsh? That's a priority, I understand. And he's going to attract some big offers. I heard he already has attracted some big offers. So anyway, defensive line player development. We're still in the player development category here. The categories are roster management, player development, in-game coaching, recruiting, NIL donor management. Player development. Defensive line seems solid to me. Got good development for Daquan Dowse. Looked pretty good in the spring game. Came back in the fall, 15 pounds heavier. He was an impact defensive tackle. Maverick Hansen, I think he improved a little bit. Even though he became a second stringer, I thought he was better. Maybe because he was able to play fewer snaps. Van Sumeren needs to improve against double teams. He gives up too much movement there. He's strong in the weight room. He's got some quickness, but needs to be more firm against double teams. Maybe that'll come as he gets older. Charles Brantley, he improved in the defensive backfield. Linebackers, Halliday was, still Halliday. Jordan Turner, we didn't know much about him, and Wayne Matthews. Jordan Hall, second string. Did he tweet something yesterday or today? Something about, did he also say we're in good hands or something like that? I don't know. But Jordan Hall was kind of an impact freshman. Gave effort, but when you play as a true freshman, sometimes, especially the way Michigan State was last year, you make mistakes and you're still playing. With this group, you make mistakes, you're not going to play. It's more of an Izzo type of thing on defense. So Jordan Hall, if he sticks with it, is probably a good candidate to be a starter next year. We'll see. I think they like Brady Pretzlaff. I thought Marcellus Pulliam looked pretty good in mop-up this year a couple times. I thought that was a guy that came around and hit some people once in a while. Do they go in the portal and get another guy? Got Wayne Matthews coming back? I don't know. So linebacker, it's kind of I don't know what to think about that in terms of player development this year. In-game coaching. Second half of the games, statistically, no secret, not very good. Got outscored by everybody. Jonathan Smith said they looked into it. What's the problem at halftime? Challenged his coaches. Why are we not good in the third quarter? Looked into it. Came out against Rutgers. Bad again in the third quarter. Is that coaching? Probably. I don't know. The defense did some good. It's got to be. Defense did a good job. I said earlier, having to blitz a lot, pressure a lot. When I say pressure, I mean 4-man rush with pressures, people dropping, people, had to blitz a lot. Had to bring some, I don't want to say wholesale exotics, but they had to do a lot of different looks, and they did it without screwing themselves up a lot, which is an accomplishment, especially when you got freshmen back there. So I thought that was good about the defense in terms of in-game coaching. They had a lot of volume in, and they didn't seem to confuse themselves. Did pretty good against the run all year. They're nationally, what were they in defense? Top 45 or so. Pretty solid on defense. So in-game coaching there, I thought wasn't bad at all. Offense number 12 in the Big Ten in total offense. Might be better than you think, right? Number 10 in the Big Ten in yards per play, which I think is the most important stat to judge an offense. But that didn't really translate to scoring for Michigan State. So maybe I shouldn't use it as the most important stat. It's an important stat if you also do well in the red zone, which Michigan State didn't do. But number 10 in the Big Ten out of 18, 10 out of 18 in yards per play. That's not bad. Turnovers were a problem. Red zone offense were a problem. So anything negative like that can erase something you do well. But yards per play was not bad for Michigan State, especially with the offensive line with shaky pass protection and just hard to get anything consistent there. Recruiting, grade for them. They need to grow on it. I mean, number 58 in the country. We talked about that earlier. They had their number of players, and then after those went away, they turned over some more rocks, but they're holding slots for the portal. We'll see how they do with portal. Number 58. I mean, that's not great. If you're outside the top 50 year after year after year at Michigan State, it's not going to be good enough. Then you're addicted to the portal, and you don't want to be there either. So they're trying to make some progress, gain some traction, and as they come up for air, as they get further into their regime, I would think, hope, and expect that they would have classes between that 25 and 45 range that I talked about earlier. Unless they're just great in the portal, but then you're addicted to it. Then every year you can end up like TCU, and like Indiana might be next year, Florida State. So, all right, NIL donor management. I'm hearing that needs to get better in terms of donor management. He's been around the block 1 year, getting to know people as he gets to know those guys. I don't think that's his favorite thing to do. It wasn't Nick Saban's favorite thing to do, but Saban, like he would do it, and when he did something, he did it. He did it well. I mean, he was a sociopath, but but when it came time to shake hands with Peter Secchi and all those guys, he made those guys feel, like he was the life of the party, kind of. So Smith, he's a hyper focused, intelligent guy, wants to coach ball these days. Donor relations has always been part of it. It's part of being a college football coach politician. You have to be a politician. So let's get out there with the constituents, and as you need money in the NIL. So that's going to be part of it. So as he learns to meets people, I think he could get better at it. From what I hear from donors, and that's what I hear from them. So it wasn't Saban's thing either. Grew into it. Wasn't D'Antonio's thing. And by the end, D'Antonio was raising a lot of money. D'Antonio had help from Luana Simon and Mark Hollis, who were good fundraisers. And fundraising is not the whole thing. Fundraising is part of it. Donor relations is part of it. The other part is just monetizing things, generating revenue with everyday occurrences. I mean, at some point, concessions and parking at the stadium needs to go to the athletic department. And then you just need to start just things that everyday fans do. There needs to be an official Michigan State of it, and signage in the proper places. So donations is part of it, but generating revenue, monetizing everything, that needs to be a big part of it. And I think Michigan State's has the potential to get better at that with some people if they push some correct buttons here in the near future. So all those things are still to be determined. He's only been around for 9 months. We'll see more later as we go. I think we're going to cut it off right there. We've been going long enough. Appreciate everybody checking us out. That's 2 hours. That's long enough. I got work to do. I'm going to watch some film. Appreciate everybody. I didn't even look over here at the comments and the reactions. I really appreciate the people that post over here. Let's see what's going on. I'm glad the Desert Sparty asked me how my Thanksgiving was. How was your Thanksgiving, Desert Sparty? I hope it was good in the desert. Tell you what, it was good. Here's a little bit crisp. Got some snow on Sunday. It was nice. I liked it. Got some snow at the game. Didn't mind that at all. I know it was tough for the fans, the ones that showed up. Real tough. Especially after everything that's happened this season. That was a tough one. And you know what? That game should have been at Ford Field. And I asked Alan Heller about that in the summer. And he's like, yeah, it could happen again. I think you're going to see that happen again. And when Michigan State plays game 12 at home, I think it needs to be at Ford Field. And if it had been at Ford Field, if they played Rutgers at Ford Field last Saturday, they would have had at least 55,000 there. Might have sold it out. And the players would have liked it. I know I love snow games as much as anybody. Love it, especially when I'm up there in the booth, getting fat, drinking hot chocolate, and laughing at everybody. Sorry to say it that way, but it's true. But walking into the stadium, I was like, oh man, this is cold. I've not been to a snow game as a fan in a while. I'd like to do that. I saw John Elway play at Soldier Field one time in December. I was in Chicago for a Christmas party. Had a wonderful time. Went and saw Elway the next day. Cold, loved it. But, got there late first quarter, scalping back in the paper ticket era. Prices come down. Plus, I wasn't real keen on all 4 quarters. Plus, I didn't bring all my thermal equipment because we didn't know we were going to the Bears game that weekend. Managed it. But going to the stadium the other day, man, it was cold. The wind was cold. The snow globe game against Penn State 3 years ago in 2021, it was snow, but it was like a warm snow. It was like 31 degrees. It was like perfect. There was no wind. Snow was accumulating like crazy. And if you wore your ski pants like I tell you to, you'd have been just fine. Indiana game last year, I remember walking to the stadium. I'm like, man, this is cold. I can't remember Spartan Stadium ever being this cold. That was cold for that game. Was that last year or 2 years ago? Maybe that was 2 years ago. And this one was cold because that wind was serious. Being up in the upper deck with that wind, forget it. But part of me would like that challenge, and I would have showed up with one of those snowmobile. I'd have had ski goggles on with one of those ski masks where it's like covering up like this. That's what I'm talking about. Anything like that, I'm loving it. And I might have smuggled something in just for warm spirits, and layers and ski pants and layers and ski pants and coat and scarf. You got to protect that. You can't have any skin here. That scarf's got to keep all that in there. And the hand warmers and the gloves. Probably mittens. Ice fishing mittens is what you need. So your fingers are together. They're not in a glove thing. They're together. Ice fishing mittens. I'm going to help people with this. I'm going to put together a video next year. And they need to distribute to all the students at orientation. When you come to Michigan State in August, bring cold weather attire for the November games, especially if you're an out-of-state student who's not going to be going home before Thanksgiving. Anyway, there's part of me that would like to accept the challenge of going to one of those really cold games and just seeing if I could stand it. But those people that were driving to the game and going to the game, if you'd have polled them and said, would you rather go to Ford Field for this game, they all would have said yes. And I love Spartan Stadium. I know it needs a lot of work. I love the history. I love the locale. I like the trees. I like the grass, all that stuff. It's wonderful. But the Ford Field thing can be another resource for Michigan State. It can be a positive. And whenever Michigan State has a home game for Week 12, next year they don't. Next year they're in Los Angeles for Week 12. I think I saw that. If you go to the Michigan State official site, it might not be in Los Angeles. Wait a minute. It just occurred to me. That if you go to the official Michigan State site, the dates have not been listed yet. But last week I looked up a schedule and saw USC, the last game of the year. But I don't know if that's true or not. I hope it's not true. I don't want to go to Los Angeles for Thanksgiving. It's a road game. But anyway, I guess it's not been announced yet if Michigan State has a game 12 next year at home or not. But if it is at home, move it to Ford Field. And I've heard some people say it's going to happen again at some point. And I think it can be. I think the players would like it. The fans will like it. By week 12, you've done enough tailgating because our fan base, Michigan State's fan base. I say our fan base because you guys are you're my market. I sell to you. I hate to admit this to you, but you're my market. You buy some subscriptions. So you're my people, our people. Our people are tailgating people. Everybody loves tailgating. Every program has tailgaters except for like Boston College. And so there's by the time you get to Thanksgiving weekend, our fans, they've already had a lot of tailgates. They've had 2 or 3 or 4 tailgates. They've come back to campus. They've seen campus. They've seen the leaves. They get warm, fuzzy feelings because they drink their spiked cider and they look at Holden Hall and they're just like happy to be there. They see their friends. They're happy to see their friends again. By the time November comes along, they've done all that. They don't need to see their friends anymore. It's cold. They're not going to the game. So the tailgating thing is out as one of the draws. But however, Ford Field, go down there, and Detroit's wonderful. If you've not been to Detroit in the last 10 years, it's wonderful. I mentioned this on the radio last week. I was there 2 weekends ago, saw Jim Gaffigan at the Fox Theater. Beautiful. Went down there to the Cadillac Square, did all that stuff. Stayed at the Godfrey on Michigan Avenue. Wonderful time. Walked around. Beautiful. Liked it. Detroit's really come around. I mean, it's nice. All the people that went to the high school state championship games last week, they went there. They liked it. It's one of the reasons I was looking forward to possibly going to that bowl game. But the Rutgers game, if you play Rutgers in there, it's going to sell out because it's comfortable, mainly. But also, I think it should be a Black Friday game, Black Friday night. Why? Because you've got a lot of Michigan State fans that live abroad that come back home to the state of Michigan for Thanksgiving to visit their families. And they've not gone to a Michigan State game in a long time. You got Black Friday. It's Thanksgiving. You're all fat, turkey, whatever. Next day, your wife, sister-in-law, they go shopping. They go shopping. What are you going to do? Hey, guys, what do you want to do? Well, State's playing at Ford Field. You want to go? Yeah, let's go. Let's get tickets. You got tickets? Yeah, I get tickets. Let's go. Let's go to the football game. You'd have people planning for it. You'd have some walk up. You'd have some spontaneous people that go. And you'd have the Michigan State fans, of course. Then you'd have a lot of Michigan State fans that live in the Detroit area that have gotten out of the habit of going to Michigan State games, that when a game is in their backyard, yeah, I'll go, especially on Black Friday. Then you have the Michiganders from abroad that are home. They're going to go. And it will be good, and it'll be loud, and it'll be a home field advantage. It will be unique to Michigan State. Throughout the entire Big Ten, no one's going to have anything like that. I remember when, like, Alabama occasionally would play games in Birmingham at Legion Field. Now, Legion Field's a dump now, but they play a couple games there, just to expand their fan base a little bit. University of Arkansas used to play home games at Little Rock, right? Again, not a great stadium. Ford Field is an upgrade stadium, right? You don't want to play a lot of games there. You don't want to play there in September. But Black Friday, when Michigan State has a home game on Thanksgiving weekend, which is not always been the case. There's going to be sometimes when the Thanksgiving weekend is going to be a road game, so you don't do it that year. Maybe go 2 years without doing it. But when Michigan State has a home game Thanksgiving weekend, boom, they should be at Ford Field. And I heard the Lions want to do it. Now you can say, well, the high school people, the high school people will be fine. They'll play on Sunday and Saturday and Sunday. They'll be fine. Lions on Thursday, Michigan State on Friday, high school Saturday, Sunday, boom. Needs to happen, and that can be a plus. That can be a resource. And then it's not bad for recruiting, too, just to have Michigan State coming through there once a year. And I'm telling you, stay the night in Detroit, you'll have a good time. Anyway, that's about it. I went off on another tangent. I'm going to go through this real quick. Got some good posts here. I'm not going to be able to read all of them, but I appreciate everybody. Spartan from Rensselaer, Indiana says, enjoy these, as always. Great work, SpartanMag. JR Jr. says, Iowa game is the proof of concept. Average Joe Psychology says, I blame the Boston College game more than the Rutgers game, and I also feel like the team lost passion after we lost to Michigan. Average Joe Psychology, I agree with all of that. And I've heard some stuff about the post-Michigan game that it did come unstrapped a little bit. Chris Leverett says KU just picked up running back from the transfer portal from Iowa. Sammy South says, have you noticed no one ever blames the morons who do the hiring at Michigan State? I mean, these people didn't just show up and said, I'll be the coach, did they? The morons that did the hiring. Sammy South, flashing out. James M. Carlson says, is Smith just not the right fit? He just seems lost in the Big Ten. That's year one. A lot of people talk about his sideline demeanor, and that is different. It is different. Remains to be seen. Someone else had an interesting direct quote here. I'll skip right to it. Okay, first of all, Chad from Petoskey says, do we know who the early enrollees are going to be? I think the quarterback, Leo Hannon from Long Beach, California, Certified High School. I think he's early enroll. Offensive lineman, Justin Bell from Macomb, Dakota, early enroll. Wide receiver, Braden Collier, Sandusky, Ohio, for Perkins High School. Just call him the Blue Streak. Early enroll at wide receiver. If you know, you know. Linebacker, Damari Malone, Macomb, Dakota. Early enroll. I think Derek Simmons, defensive tackle from Frankenmuth, good player. Did they win the state title? I forgot to look for that one. My DVR, we're switching cable companies, and I lost my DVR. I got DVR, it's all erased. Derek Simmons might be. The Orchard Lake St. Mary's guys, they're enrolling in June. It's a school thing. Can't early enroll. Drew Nichols, the offensive lineman from Temecula, California, he's not early enrolling. All right, so the other question, Don from Dowagiac. It's not Dowagiac, it's Dowagiac. Dowagiac. Says what percent? I know my geography. Says what percentage chance do you place on Smith? That's Jonathan Smith being the head coach for Michigan State in 2027. What percentage chance? Don from Dowagiac wants to know. First of all, if you look at just in general, we talked about this last year during the coach search podcasts. That if you looked around the country, the low number of coaches that make it 4 years and the high percentage of coaches that were in their like first or second or third year. I don't have those numbers anymore. Those papers have been thrown away. So You're talking about 2027? Talking about being the coach for a 4th year? Look in the Big Ten right now. 18 teams in the Big Ten. 8 of the 18 this year, the coaches were in their 1st or 2nd year. 8 of the 18 coaches were in their 1st or 2nd year. Coaches at Michigan, Purdue, and he got fired after 2 years. Michigan State, 1st year. Northwestern, 2nd year. Indiana, 1st year. Nebraska, what's he, 2nd year? I forgot to look that one up. UCLA, 1st year. Washington, 1st year. USC, 3rd year, and he's on thin ice. Oregon, 3rd year, doing good, plant a flag. Illinois, 4th year, doing good. Wisconsin, 3rd year, thin ice. The only ones that are more than 4 years, Ohio State, Iowa, and Iowa's got the longest tenured coach in the country. Ohio State, thin ice. Iowa, Penn State, Minnesota, Maryland, Rutgers. So, 6 of the 18, 7 of the 18 made it to year number 4. 7 out of 18 is less than a 50% shot. Now, some of these guys in their 1st year, they'll get to the 4th year, I would imagine. But like I said, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. What did I just say? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of the 18 make it to the 4th year right now. So I'm going to go by that and put it right around that. I think it's going to be better. It's going to be better than 7 of 18. 7 of 18 is below 50% make it to the 4th year. I understand Michigan's guy replaced a guy that was there longer than that. Northwestern's guy replaced a guy that was longer than that. The rest of them, not so much. Washington's guy replaced a guy that was successful, whatever. So, according to this, in the Big Ten, it's less than a 50% chance to get to a 4th year. I know you got to let these play out to get the true numbers. I understand it's not exactly, the numbers aren't exactly indicative of what I'm talking about. I'm going to say there's a better chance than that. What's that, like 40%? It's going to be better chance than 40%, better chance than 50%. I'm going to say a better chance than 55%. I'm just going to say a better chance than all that. It's a good question, so we'll see. Desert Sparty says, Comp, what are your thoughts on the 105 roster limit? I don't like it. They had to do it because people were going to start paying walk-ons anyway, and there was no way to stop that. So they put a cap on it so that people wouldn't, so that some teams would not have 120 guys on scholarship. So they reduced it to 105. Some teams are going to pay all 105. Some guys will probably cap it at 90, and then they'll have, 15 guys that are walk-ons, partial walk-ons. Depends on not just fundraising, but revenue generation, revenue solutions. So, and I think Michigan State's got a chance to take some steps in revenue generation. Some of those things I was talking about a minute ago. Not just donations. Donations is one of the 10 poles. Big money donor donations is part of it, but just overall everyday generation of revenue. There's ways to get that done. There are some solutions and strategies to get that done. Michigan State's looking into some of those things. I think there's some potential there. And you might have to go external to get it. In fact, I think it's looking like you have to go external to get it. For instance, when you talk about, they went external for their general hold on a second. They went external for their multimedia rights. Remember, Hollis and those guys used to do it internally for a long time. They were very proud of that, and that served a really great purpose for a long time. Hollis and his staff, they personally went out and sold the advertising to whether it be Farm Bureau Insurance or Farmers Insurance Group, whatever it was, or Labatt's or General Motors, Pepsi, whatever. It was personal. And Hollis admitted that Michigan State probably lost money on that, but gained in terms of personal relationships long term. Okay. But then eventually Hollis, to quote himself, sold out. I don't mean that negatively. And they went with, well, it was a Fox College Sports Inc. or whatever it's called. So Fox ran it at Michigan State for a couple of years. Now, what's it called? Fly? What's it called? Fly? Blue Fly? Space Fly? What's it called? Gadfly? What's it called? I don't mean to. Playfly. Okay, so Playfly, Michigan State, Playfly handles Michigan State's multimedia rights. That's kind of what IMG used to be and what Learfield used to be. And I think, didn't Learfield and IMG merge? I don't know. But anyway, Playfly, Michigan State is in with them. So Playfly handles multimedia rights. So like signage that you see, Playfly set that up. So if you're at a Michigan State basketball game and you see the guy come sweep the floor with the whatever broom that is, Lidman or whatever, that's a Playfly thing. And in game, I think at Breslin there's too much of that. Let the band play a little bit. Just all this commercial stuff. You think you're at a minor league baseball game? Let the damn band play. I mean, it's nice. Let the band play. Cut back on, I don't know. I mean, there's things you can do signage wise. Like the guy push the broom, that's fine. But let the band play a little bit. So now I'm going off on another tangent. But anyway, Michigan State outsourced to Playfly. Michigan State was one of the few that did it internally in terms of multimedia rights. Then they finally joined everybody else and they outsourced it. I think it's getting to the point now where you're seeing a lot of universities that are outsourcing some of the help in terms of revenue solutions, exterior, outside companies, because it's generating revenue, monetizing everything is a big part of this. And Michigan State progress has been pretty slow to non-existent with a lot of these internal plans and initiatives. They get off the ground, then they stop. Get off the ground, stop. And I know, donors are frustrated by it. Fans are frustrated by it. They don't know where to go to donate. Then that's just the donation arm of it. That's a different thing. But there's a lot of universities that are kind of struggling with this to get a handle on these things. There's a lot of universities that use some of these external companies that are cropping up and helping with revenue generation. I mean, North Carolina State, Penn State, Kentucky, a lot of these schools are doing this. And Michigan State's tried to do some things internally, but they outsource to Playfly for multimedia rights. I think it's come to the time where they're going to need some outside, just like these other schools are doing, for some revenue generation solutions. And like Oklahoma just sent out an email today officially calling themselves an athletic business, not an athletic department. So some of these companies are sprouting up to help universities do these things, and they help generate money, and they pay the university, and then the university also gets, usually, they get like an excess juice on top when you start making money. It could be any kind of different fundraisers, from advertising you put on anything to other things you do to raise money, or players in town, you gotta, have a brunch, charge $1,000 a plate to hear Kirk Cousins talk at the captain's lunch when they play, if he's in town for whatever, during the off week. There's all kinds of things you can do, and there's companies that can help you do that. Now you can say do it internally, but right now Michigan State, they don't really have the people. I think that's shown. And right now Michigan State is not in a place where you would expand to bring more people in to handle those things. They've got some people in that are kind of in charge of it, but those people need help. They're open to more help. So Michigan State's not going to expand and hire more people, because as an athletic department, Michigan State and a lot of other athletic departments are tightening their belt to free up some money to try to be able to pay the $20 million next year, when you're allowed to pay your athletes up to $22 million, whatever it is. That's the cap. And then programs are going to pay more on top of that with NIL and other money to generate revenue solutions, generating revenue. But you're going to have to generate revenue to pay this $22 million, because some programs aren't going to be able to pay all that $22 million. But anyway, I think Michigan State could get to the point where they're going to want to and need to look to outsource that thing, like they did with Playfly. They need to partner with some other companies that have their best interest at heart. You have to find out who those are and partner up and get on that with some revenue generation solutions. They're out there. A lot of colleges are doing it. Michigan State's going to have to do it pretty soon also. Chris Leverett says Aiden West tweeted out that he still plans to sign with Michigan State tomorrow. That'd be real good. And that was good evaluation by Demetrius Martin to get him. And like I said before, I think he was a 2-star when he committed. And I said, if you told me that guy was a 4-star committed to Penn State, I would believe it. That's a compliment to him and Penn State. Anyway, hey, we're all done. We're going to wrap it up. I'm going to go watch some video. SpartanMag.com covering signing day on Wednesday. Basketball game Wednesday night. Portal. It's going to be busy. We're going to be checking it out over at SpartanMag.com. Go over there, check it out. We'd love to have you over there. Everybody be good. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later. Take care.